As the Third Reich continues its reign of terror, Adolf Hitler is on a quest for the legendary Ark of the Covenant, resting place of the Ten Commandments, whose supernatural powers, legend says, can wipe out entire armies. The U.S. government turns to Dr. Indiana Jones for the mission. Relentlessly pursued by Hitler's henchmen, Indy infiltrates their massive digging operation in a race against time to discover the Well of Souls, where the Ark has lain undisturbed for centuries. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode, we'll be covering 1981's Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Steven Spielberg.
Oh, are we good?
Yeah.
Let's just come in with us doing the thing like this.
All right, that's done. We're in. We're in, baby. We're in. Hello. Hi.
Well, hey.
How you going? We're in. Hey. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Double Feature. We are covering Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is a feature presentation. Nothing else. Feature presentation. We're covering this. We're going through this. I'm a little buzzed already.
Yeah.
Are we going through this movie?
Yeah, we're going through this, baby. I'm going to introduce my co-hosts. Let's introduce Danny because he can't fucking wait, apparently. So, how you going, Danny?
When were we going to start recording this again? By the way,
You get to the end of the episode and you just haven't recorded. And coughing and doing all or clearing his throat as always is Colin. How you doing, Colin?
Hey, how you guys doing?
No, I'm doing good. Thank you, guys. I'm excited. I know Danny's super pumped for this. I know I'm excited to talk about it. And thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hope you guys enjoy, guys. But look, before we dive into this, one quick serious note. Patreon. Support our show. We're an independent podcast. We don't have any sponsorship. We don't have any advertisements. The only thing that we do advertise is our Patreon. That's called The Green Room. Head to patreon.com/Midnight Double Feature. We're recording a bonus episode after this, Colin and I are. And we're going to be doing Scary Movie. And that's the reason why I have a drinking problem at 11 a.m. So if you're a Green Room member and you progressively, you listen to this episode, this Indiana Jones episode, and you progressively move over to the Scary Movie episode, you'll get a real-time experience of me getting more and more drunk. So there you go. And that's what you pay for, right? I mean, that's what you guys get for your money.
You pay for our beer money.
But really, it's more about the fact that Sydney is in lockdown at the moment. So I just woke up in this Saturday morning. And
What
I
do
was
you got to do today?
What do I have to do today? Where do I have to drive? What responsibilities do I have?
That's
Nothing.
the best.
I have zero.
wow.
So I just woke up and I was like,
That's so. I just quit my job, and I just was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. Is so. What do I have to do today? Nah, nothing. You just wake up and you're like, nothing.
Literally
That's
nothing.
awesome. It's a nice feeling.
I got up 15 hours ago.
There you go. Like Steph's downstairs, passed out because she had a fucking liter of margaritas last night.
No, I was up at 7 a.m., but I was up doing nothing because it was awesome. But no, yeah, guys, please check out our Patreon. It's $5 a month. You know, that's all it is. You get all these. What are we up to now? 25 something bonus episodes?
Yeah, about that much. I think we're about to record our 26th. So, I mean, look, we are really, really growing our backlog, and we have other things on there as part of our bonus kind of experience. So, we have all these interviews coming in. We've been lucky to have some really, really great people on the podcast, and, we always record video with them now as well. So the video is always available to bonus Green Room members. We're not going to release those on YouTube for everyone to see, that mainly because I'm self-conscious and I'm shy and I don't want other people to see it. So if you head to Green Room, you can go ahead and see those video interviews. You can go ahead and see the talent in the flesh. And when I mean talent, I mean the other guys that are joining us. One that I'm going to go ahead and plug right now is I have two in the can. So we just released one with the writer of Dragon Ball Evolution. That was Matt's interview. Which is awesome. And I did an interview, dude. I woke up at 2 a.m. because they're in fucking LA. And
I saw it on air. I was like, who the fuck is he talking to at 2 a.m?
right. Well, yeah, like these guys directed a documentary called The Sleepless Unrest, and basically they spent like 10 days, like unbroken 10 days, in the Conjuring house, so the real Conjuring house that it was inspired like from.
Yeah.
And they documented some pretty wild shit. The documentary itself is pretty good. Like I enjoyed it. And the actual guys, Vera and Kendall Welton, they're really, really nice people. And we got into paranormal investigating and like how people tend to react whenever they say that, we're paranormal investigators or something like that.
Right.
So we got into some pretty deep shit, which is pretty cool. So that episode will be out on the next upcoming Attractions episode. And then after that, I have an interview scheduled with Colin Watkinson, who was the director of photography on Handmaid's Tale,
Nice.
which is pretty awesome that I can't wait for. He's directed some episodes of Handmaid's Tale. He directed some episodes of Entourage as well. I'm so stoked, dude, because Steph and I are going through Handmaid's Tale right now, and it might be the most gorgeous show on television. Like, I mean, yeah, probably outside of Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones is a whole different level of cinematography kind of thing. But like, Handmaid's Tale, man, like I don't know how they managed to pull off what they pulled off in terms of like shots and shot composition and stuff like that. So, look, if you guys do want to see the video interviews, head to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/MinutElf-feature to be involved with that. Now, on this episode of the podcast, this Raiders of the Lost Ark episode, we got quite a bit of social media, interaction, which was awesome. Because it's a big episode, it's a big movie, it's an influential movie. So I'd expect, quite a few people to chime in, right? I asked a prompting question, is this the greatest adventure film ever written? And, you guys can go ahead. I'm sure you guys have had a thought about this, but like, let's go ahead and like table that for the end and we'll talk about it at the end. But, like we got quite a bit of people talking about it. So if you do want to get involved in the conversation, head to our socials. They're in the show notes. But the main sort of hub is on our Facebook group called the After Party, and that's where you can kind of chime in and be involved in these questions and conversations. So thank you to everyone who took part in this particular episode, because we're going to have a lot to talk about, I think, at the end of the episode in terms of suggestions as to what other movies might be considered for greatest adventure films ever written, Yeah, absolutely. So, look, guys, we're here, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. As Danielle Carter said in the after party, how have we not covered any of the Indiana Jones movies yet? How have we not touched this franchise? It's kind of weird that we've never mentioned it.
Yeah.
Like, this was my pick, and, you'd be kind of surprised if you're a long time listener of the show, because it was made before I was born. But, this is to me, this is a seminal movie growing up. This is a seminal franchise growing up. So I've kind of already like tipped my hand in choosing this movie. Danny, I'm going to go ahead and throw to you because you're not usually on these episodes. So let's go with your thoughts first about Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Make me warm up first. This was just, and we've said this with so many other of the movies, that's like on complete recycle through your entire like VHS collection at home. It was basically like you were going to get to it probably at some point that month without even realizing it. Like, I don't know if it was like maybe that often of a rewatch maybe, but it was something that we would always like have ready to see. Of course, we were a big Star Wars family, so like having Harrison Ford and all of the Star Wars stuff on our TVs and stuff we listen to all the time, that transitioning over into Indiana Jones just gave us another franchise to love and watch all the time with like characters that we really got absorbed into. The more I think about it, it's probably one of the only kind of movies that takes place in, sometimes in that era that I'm like really interested in. Because otherwise, I don't particularly find myself looking for like Nazi era movies particularly. Although I find myself seeing them a lot, like in just other movies and stuff, other war movies I enjoy. But like this is probably one of the only ones where I'm like, I really enjoy that setting and sort of like look forward to it. It's just interesting, weird to think about.
That's interesting because I want to kind of like not go fully deep into that, but I wonder if it's because it's not a heavy kind of like Nazi. It's not Schindler's List,
yeah,
right? I mean, like, if we're comparing it to something else that's Spielbergian or Saving Private Ryan, right? It's not those. It's got this really, like, light, kind of like feeling about it, like action adventure feeling about it.
You're right. There's even an instance where like him and a Nazi bus driver stop and like laugh with each other about something. I mean, there are definitely, I guess, maybe some more lighthearted moments about this that, yeah, maybe you're right. So there is some like quintessential just movie moments that are just littered throughout this entire thing. I feel like if there's any type of show that was made after this that did pop culture references, they've referenced Indiana Jones in this movie probably like, 10 times over. Just because there's so much here that is original and is unique, Indiana Jones rolling under the door and then going to grab his whip. And then there's other things that were like influences from other movies. I don't remember what the name of it is, and maybe I can haphazardly pull it up in the middle of this, but later when he's even doing the stunt sliding under the truck in that sand, so that he doesn't get run over. Like even that was inspired by like this crazy live stunt that they did a long time ago that was even like more dangerous than that under a carriage of horses, I think. I'll have to look that up, what that is, because I remember immediately seeing that reference. So, man, there's just so much to dive into with this that, probably the thing that comes back to me the most, and it's the reason we started the episode this way, is the theme, though, right? The score of this is synonymous with
John
Williams.
Yeah, dude, it's great.
Yes.
Classic. Yes. It's classic.
So, like, yeah, it's almost like you almost have like a compilation CD of like John Williams, right? So, yeah. What is there not to like about this movie? I will say, though, that wasn't my vote, but it was in this franchise. The question that you started with earlier.
That's funny because I had a feeling that, this film and another film in this series would be duking it out for the greatest written adventure film of all time. But yeah, look, we'll get to that. Colin, hit me with your thoughts on Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Really, Indiana Jones. We didn't watch this growing up. I would bet good money this might be the first time I've sat down and watched this from start to finish. I don't think I've ever actually sat down and like. No. Now here's the thing. We had Last Crusade like ripped off of TV on VHS. Remember, find it in the tape cabinet that sat underneath the TV way in the back, and I felt like Indy pulling it out and just blowing all the dust off of it, and nobody had watched it. And I remember watching it and being like, "Oh, this is fucking awesome! Like, this is really cool." I might have seen parts of Temple of Doom. Parts of this I did vaguely remember, but you end up getting fucked up thinking like, is this just cultural osmosis or did I actually watch this? Turns out a lot of it was cultural osmosis because I don't think I've seen most of this. And like, I think it's definitely not a bad movie by any means. I have no like bad things to say about this movie. But I did not grow up watching these. So try watching this as an adult after you've watched things like this that you watch Pirates of the Caribbean, you watch The Mummy, and you watch the stuff that benefits from this being the original kind of like, not the original, but the most modern at the time. It influenced the stuff that we're watching now. So through that scope, it's like, I do appreciate it and I do like it. Honestly, it's not my favorite of the Indiana Jones movies. I was like, parts of it it's a little long. There's some weird editing to it, I'll be honest, that just kind of threw me off. But all in all, I mean, it's a great movie. It's not, there's nothing really bad about it where it's like, I thought this was not up to par. Like there was nothing about it where it was like casting or any of the music or any of the shots or anything like that. It's a visually beautiful movie and it's a cool story. I like religious history, sometimes even like alternate history. I like history around like with like the Ark of the Covenant and the Knights of Templar and shit like that. Like all that stuff's really interesting to me. But all in all, is like I can go either way on this movie. I'm not absolutely blown away by it, but I didn't watch a lot of stuff like this growing up. This is when I was watching shit like fucking Fright Night and like horror movies and shit. I was watching that shit growing up. So we did watch some of these. I mean, we had a copy of GoldenEye. We had an Indiana Jones movie. We didn't watch any Star Wars in the house growing up. I had to find that shit by myself. So we didn't really watch a lot of like, I guess like classic franchise movies. We always watch like smaller kind of like one-off things. And I think that's why later on, I mean, I don't think I ever actually sat down and really watched this growing up. And it's a great movie. It's fun. It's not supposed to be taken like supremely seriously. It's not supposed to be, it's not like, I'm trying to think the right way to say it without insulting it. It's not like it's not a piece of film, but it's more of a movie than a film to me. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's an enjoyable piece of film, but it's not something that I feel like I would own or really want to revisit a bunch. But it does make me want to go watch Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. So I'm really like right down the middle. It's not a bad movie, but I watched it. I was just way too old at this point. And I've watched stuff that it influenced that had the benefit of better technology and, better story writing and stuff like that. Stuff that I watched when I was 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I mean, it's a great movie, but I think that I think that I showed up to it's like I just got the birthday party invitation like 15 years later, and I'm like, hey, I'm here, and everybody's like 35 now.
We're all fucking past out.
So I mean, I enjoy. I think I'd have more fun talking about it. That not that I was watching it just like fucking kill me. But it's a little long. There's some weird editing to it, but those are really kind of my only like, I guess nitpicks, if that's even a nitpick. They're fine movies. I'm not taking anything away from them. They're good.
Can we just like press stop and go cover Last Crusade and just like go for the jugular?
Yeah, go for Sean Connery.
That's interesting because I want to talk about the Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark because I mean I think the consensus, and I know I've seen people out there who have said that Temple of Doom is the best one. I'm sorry, that's just wrong, but.
I agree. That is not correct.
Look, Temple of Doom is a good movie. It's just not. I don't know. Like when there's a lot of behind the scenes drama that was happening when they made that movie. So George Lucas was going through a bit of a divorce. He kind of wanted to make a really, really darker sequel. Spielberg was like, I don't know about this, and you just kind of had these two kind of like ideas clashing in that movie, and you could see it. You could see the clash. And that movie just ends up being a little bit tonally just inconsistent. Yeah. But Raiders, yeah. Go.
Sorry,
go,
I won't. I'm trying to be better about interrupting. They put like plot objects like the damsel in distress in that, but I feel like that's all she does the entire time is just scream that one
She's
line.
Garbage.
She screams the one line garbage, the whole like 2.5 whatever hours.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god.
Right. Not to mention that I think she married Steven Spielberg after that, or they were married at the time.
Oh, dude, I know that from a Family Guy reference when Stewie is the Asian kid. I don't know what his name is in the movie.
Short Round. God damn.
And he's like,
how have we talked more about Temple of Doom than Last Crusade?
I love Stewie's like he's like ladies only here because she's banging director.
Literally, I remember that.
I read about that shit. Yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff going on.
But look, I think Raiders and Last Crusade for me when I was a lot younger. The scenes in both of those movies just kind of got muddled up for me because I was like, is this the one where he attacks the tank? Is this the one where he goes under the truck? Is this the one where, they fight around a fucking like airplane and someone gets whipped up into a propeller? Because in both of those movies, someone gets fucked up by a propeller. There's a propeller that's, the tension. Danny, what were we going to say?
I'm Mandela effect hard watching the Raiders and Last Crusade, so to speak.
Totally.
I'm like, here comes the tank, and then he comes down the hill on the horse. I'm like, wait a minute, hang on. Is that the same one? Yeah, it fucks me up. And it doesn't help that they are locationally almost identical. Go ahead, sir.
Right. No, that's all right. And the villains are the same because they're both Nazis. But like while the Last Crusade is my favorite in this franchise, I've settled on Raiders is the best out of the franchise. I think the Colin, you were talking about the editing, but I think the way this movie moves, like plot wise, is really, really strong as compared to Last Crusade. Last Crusade actually ends up having a lot of a lot more sillier moments. Like, there's a this movie is pretty silly, like Raiders is,
But
but
him and his dad are like Eskimo brothers, and they bang the same woman.
yeah, right. They end up like fucking touching dicks and shit. But like, there's a moment where Indy just straight up goes face to face with Hitler, and I'm just like, man, you've kind of taken me out of this now. Like, if that was what was taking me out of it, think about that other fourth Indiana movie that we won't talk about, where they fucking nuke the fridge moment, right?
I saw that in theaters with Danny. I remember that.
I don't think it's fair to compare those two moments that close. Come on.
Hold on. You don't think that Indiana Jones meeting the Spectre of Death is not on the same page as getting
It's
nuclear
goofy.
warhead?
It's goofy, but it's. I
Come
mean,
on, dude.
here.
Did you watch it though? It's like some CGI clay like soap falling out of the sky, and then it skips a frame and he falls out of it.
My thing is
that kills me.
For Last Crusade. What's goofier, that he bumps into Hitler, or there's a 5,000-year-old man in a cave, like waiting for him at the end of a fucking at the end of a Kubrick fuck you maze. It's like
right, yeah. The penitent man must pass. Yeah, absolutely. But like it's. There are moments in that movie that I really, really adore. I mean, like, obviously, Sean Connery is the big plus, right? And Elsa, to me, is just, I'm in love with Elsa.
Oh,
like, I think
Indiana,
Elsa's just
let
babe.
it go. Oh, it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, right. The whole, yeah. And, we named the dog Indiana, like that whole thing. But, like, I think this movie, and I don't want to, I'm trying to watch this as much as I can in isolation away from everything that's come after it, like in terms of like, the opening, someone writes an article online, probably 300 people write an article online of like, the opening sequence being the greatest action scene of all time, whatever. It's good. It's fantastic. It's a great tone setter, but like, I mean, come on guys, like the greatest opening action sequence of all time, like calm down. I just really enjoy this one a lot more. I think this one is more of a pure Indiana Jones film in terms of just being Indiana Jones. I think the second one kind of gets a little lost. Sorry, the third one gets a little lost in the weed when you bring Sean Connery in, and Sean Connery's chewing a lot of the scenery, and you kind of take a lot away from Indiana Jones himself. I think this movie is really more about Indy than anything else, and that to me is why Raiders wins, and Last Crusade is a very, very close second. But again, Last Crusade is my favorite. This is just, to me, the better film. I love this movie. All three of these movies, my brother and I grew up with. We watched it all the time. Whenever we have countless VHS tapes at home, probably still, of us like just recording these from TV. It's just, if I was to, Colin, like from last week's episode, if I was to take what Matthew Anderson said about Drive, which was the word cool, I'm going to use one word to describe this, and it's fun. Like, this is just straight up fun.
Perfect.
Like, and it's fun in the way that it's not retarded fun like the Transformers sequels. Like, it's a different,
it's not
kind
lowest
of fun.
common denominator type fun.
Right. There is, there's so much happening visually that Spielberg really is so good at doing, dude. I will never forget the first time I watched that moment where they're fighting around the kind of like rotating plane and the propellers coming. Like, like there's just so much. He's able to do so much with tension like that. Like, he's able to do so much visually in terms of like, there's no moment where Marion looks over and is like, Indy, the fuel tank's on fire. We got to jump. Like, it's all visual. Like, you see the fuel falling, and like, he's just so good at setting up these moments. But like, not only that, I really like the whole aspect of finding this godlike power and not fucking with it. Like it's just like German hubris, right? I mean, like, they know that they're on top of the world. They think they're king shit, so obviously they're going to open this thing, and then they unleash the power of fucking God and get their faces melted off. It's gorgeous, dude. It's a great film. I think, obviously the music. I mean, what can you say about the music that hasn't been said already? It's John Williams. It's amazing. Like, John Williams is doing a lot in this movie, dude, in terms of like score wise. Like he's over there commanding a 3,000-piece orchestra, and he's like, Stephen, I'm giving it all she's got. Like, like it's crazy. It's crazy. Like the score never stops. It's awesome. I love it.
I think that almost like the score is critical in this. It's almost another character in a sense of how well it sets up and just like frames this entire movie. You're right. And the pacing of it too. Like there's times where that shit is about to pick up or things are about to be mellow just because of like how he is escorting you audibly through this with his score.
Absolutely, dude. It's brilliant. And I want to shout out the cinematographer as well, Douglas Slocum. I was actually really surprised because I was like, this is for sure shot by Dean Cundy, but it's not. It's not shot by Dean Cundy. It's shot by Douglas Slocum, who did all three of these movies. This is before Spielberg moved on to the cinematographer that he uses now, who is Janusz Kaminski. And Douglas Slocum shot the fuck out of this movie, dude. There's that amazing silhouette shot as they're digging in the desert. There's the shot of Indy arriving at Marion's bar. Like, there is just so much striking visual imagery in this movie that, if you made a knockoff version of this movie today, those details won't be in there. They'll just be like completely thrown to the side. Like, it's just like, whatever. But man, I really enjoy the fuck out of this movie. I can't be high on this movie. This is a top 25, I think, pick for me. Top 25 probably. Wouldn't say top 10 or something like that, but yeah, this is a big one for me. So fuck you, Colin. You're wrong. Tell you what though, because I mean there have been so many spoofs of this, in pop culture since then. Danny, as you already alluded to, my favorite spoof of this opening scene, and we can get into this opening scene after this as well, is the scene in The Simpsons when
that was going to be my
Bart
thing.
Walks upstairs. And it's the jar of change, and it says on the jar of change, Homer's change, don't touch. And Bart is like playing out the rolling boulder scene, and Homer is the rolling boulder.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So back whenever we couldn't TiVo any of this, and it was really just whatever episode was coming on Fox 17 that day at 5 and 5:30, like I was always just praying that it was that episode. And because I was always like, that is the only episode that matters to me of The Simpsons, is him being able to take that, rolling under the door, grabbing his hat in time and running away, which I realized later was he rolls under the door and then grabs his whip from under there.
His hat.
So that always
doesn't he grab his hat? No. No, it's Temple of Doom. He grabs his hat. Sorry, in Temple of Doom he does.
I guess I guess that's why, because I blanked that movie out because it's shit.
It's garbage, dude. You want to talk about the scene where they fucking jump out of a helicopter and a plane in a fucking inflatable boat, a dinghy, and they make it?
No, I really actually do not.
Do not. Let's get into this, dude. And I hate to do this because, I never want to talk about opening titles, whatever. But apparently, so you know how you've got the Paramount logo, and then you come into that actual mountain in the background?
Badass.
That is badass. That was sprung on... So Spielberg wanted that literally at the last minute, apparently, and the producer, Frank Marshall, because they shot this in Hawaii, they had to go out looking for this at the last minute, and Frank Marshall apparently just roaming around Hawaii, just looking for the perfect mountain, dude. Obviously this is before you could probably CG it, for a cheap amount, but yeah, this is a real mountain that they found in Hawaii, and apparently, this entire walking sequence, this 3-minute walking sequence, it was shot in 20 different locations around Hawaii.
Jesus.
It's just holy shit, dude. That is the power of Spielberg. Yeah.
I can't tell with this sequence, but there's a sequence later that looks like they shot it on completely different sides of the fucking continent, and they edited it together, and it kills me. It's the one thing I can't not look at watching this. But it is much later.
I do. I love the way this is set up, though. I love the way that this first opening 11, 12 minutes or whatever sets the tone of what's to come. The music, you've got the mysterious music. And then, you've got that guy turning on Indy, and he steps out of the
immediate
shadows.
betrayal.
He steps out of the shadows, right? The beefy looking, gorgeous looking Harrison Ford that I am totally not gay for. Absolutely.
I always crack up at the guy running away from the statue as well. I feel like that, you talking about setting the tone, it goes from just this perfect, like fluttering, almost woodwind brass section of them sneaking through the forest to that guy like cackle screaming, running away.
Totally.
Well, yeah, that's what cracks me up is that guy is like, that's not like just some fucking John from New York. It's a guy that lives there. Is he surprised by something that he sees on a daily basis?
I don't know.
I've lived here my whole life. I've never seen them before. And he just like runs off. Like, what the fuck?
I love what this movie does. Like, just this sequence in terms of like showing how clever Indy is, but also at the same time, he's able to improvise. Like, when he grabs the idol, he just starts fucking running. Like, there's no, I guess, tact to it at all. Like, it's just completely like, all right, we're fucked now. Let's just run through the dangerous arrow traps. It's fine. We're good. I
want to say one thing real quick. Other than before we get to like that whole, I feel like the entire opening, this sequence, once he gets into the temple and he's navigating such a like myriad of weird things you never think about, avoiding light, needles coming out of the wall if you step on something wrong. Like, I feel like, if you ever were the type of person that was just like play around and like do adventures or whatever, like in your backyard, this is what we did because we had a huge forest when we were kids. We would like play around in our backyard and pretend that there was like a sequence of ways that you had to get to a certain part of our forest, modeled out like basically after what this movie makes us think about. It was like, you have to jump in between these two trees on this rock, and because we had a really rocky forest. So anyway, I feel like there's just so much like adventure, like just oozing out of just this one like piece of the movie. It's great.
No, absolutely, dude. Like, I think this is quintessential Indiana Jones that people think about. Like, people always think about Indiana Jones and it's always like, all right, so he's dodging traps,
running away from a boulder,
right, he's running away from boulders, he's going for golden idols, like, and that's all in the opening 11 minutes. Like, this is like everything that people equate Indiana Jones to being, it's all right here. Like, like you can tell them,
right.
Like, if you went up to someone on the street and asked them, hey, what do you reckon Indiana Jones is in 3 sentences? They'll say this.
Right.
And then you'll probably blow their minds by saying that it's in the first 11 minutes. Probably.
How do they reset the security for this idol? Because like they could refill the poison darts and they could push the stones back up, but like they gotta take that rock and take it all the way from wherever the fuck that shit rolls,
like
all the way back uphill into the entrance. They got to take it over all that shit up. They
got to call that.
That's a lot of work.
You know what? They need to invest in a good alarm company because
that's why this podcast is covered by ADT and start doing That's why we're sponsored by ADT.
Can you imagine if in the midst of all this with the score and everything so dramatic, Indiana Jones jumping over and grabbing the vine, and then there's some guy with a polo shows up and he's like, your ADT alarm went off.
Jock, what's the alarm code? Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, but this is awesome, dude. I love, like, even just the contemplation of him walking up to the idol and, weighing the sandbag and pouring the sand out. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't in the script. Like, like him pouring the shit out and, like them kind of coming up with it on the fly. Because there are things that apparently Harrison Ford came up with on the fly that we'll get to. It's one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, and I can't wait to talk about it. But, yeah, like this entire sequence of like them escaping, him finding Alfred Molina's dead fucking body impaled in the spikes. Oh, it's so good. And he's just like, adios.
Well, I love it. He pulled, what is the first guy's name that he finds? Like, it's like a colleague of his, Bertoli or something.
Water something. He says that this is as far as he got,
right?
But they don't. It was like he was really good.
He was really good. He was really good.
And then 30 seconds later, he's really dead.
He was really good, and he survived this. Literally, dude, you would have a better chance if you just sprinted through it. But this guy must have been like, all right, take this very gently and put one foot exactly in the wrong spot.
I better only stay in the light.
Yes. Oh man, like how I just love how Indy hypes this dude up like he was second best to me, and he's just like, like sitting there dying.
That just gives you measurable scale that second best Indiana Jones lasts like 5 minutes into the first movie.
Right.
So, pretty big difference.
And then we meet our cunt in the movie, right? I mean, dude, whose first name is Renee? What male's first name is Renee? You fucking French ponce.
You see the way that he laughs at the idol, though, with his teeth? Like, he's almost like trying to carve his teeth into it. It's weird.
Let me know. I'm going to look into the statue and see if there's anything between my teeth while I've got it here in my head. No, yeah, when he walked up, I was just like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, I literally, I had no idea that this guy was going to be a figure for the rest of the movie. I thought it was like, okay, this will just be one of the many people that, you know, but this is going to be like an occupational hazard for Indy of just like, you go in there, you do the work, and somebody shows up to like, well, I'm just going to blow dart you to death and steal your shit. Well, yeah, okay, that's great. Fantastic.
You could warn them if only you spoke Jovitos. Piece of shit. Dude, I love like panning the camera around and you see that guy just fall and you just see the spikes on the back of his body. Oh, love it.
Like he wanted to come out thinking he was alive almost, and then
right.
Indiana Jones is like, so he was a porcupine. That's interesting. I had no idea.
There is a famous theory made famous. I use the word famous a lot. From the Big Bang Theory. From the Big Bang Theory, that if you take Indiana Jones out of this movie, everything will happen.
Yeah, we've watched that episode a lot.
Yeah, about this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of articles online about this, and I mean, on first glimpse, yes, that is true. Like, Indy doesn't make a positive effort to divert the Nazis or anything like that. But okay, here's my thing. If Indy didn't go here to this temple in the first place, right? My thinking is that Belloc would have gone in and gotten this idol, and he would not have made it, right? And Belloc is a big part of the Nazis' search team.
Yeah,
when it comes to the Ark, so you know, like you do kind of like need to dig a little deep to get to like Indy making a difference in this movie.
Another thing I'll say is, like, later they have to transcribe both sides of the medallion, and the only way they even know that is some shaman or whatever that Gimli,
Gimli.
It ends up knowing, because I can't remember his name at the second I'm describing this.
Sala.
Thank you. So he ends up describing that they have to know both sides of that, and that there was a shaman that Sala knew, and so, like, would Belloc have been able to have gotten that transcribed? Like,
but I mean, like all that leads to is okay. So the one thing that Indiana Jones did in this movie was help the Nazis find the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah. Well, also, because you got to think about it, like, you know, the U.S. government pretty much uses him to get involved. If they don't use him, that means they don't get involved. Then that means where does the Ark wind up? You know, like it still winds
doesn't end up in Area 51.
No,
right?
yeah,
I mean, like
this is still Nazi shit. You know,
right? Exactly. When they're all getting killed on the island at the end, who is there to let the government know where the Ark is? Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood.
Can you imagine, like, 2021 America discovering that island? Like, just some guy with a drone being like, "Whoa, let's check out this island!" Yeah, and like they're like, "Whoa, what's this? What's this? Let's live stream opening up this Ark."
I just melt all their faces off.
Smelt. But this is awesome, dude. Him escaping the Jovitos, right? I mean, yeah, like he's just shouting, "Jock, stop the engines, get it up!" Like, you know, Jock's just fishing on the pier.
We cannot sail over the line of him bitching about the snake, and after all that shit happening, Jack being like, "Get a backbone, will ya?" I died laughing at that shit later in life, way more than I realized.
It's so good, dude. And then we find out that Indiana Jones is a professor, right? I mean, I always forget that. I always forget that Indiana Jones is a professor.
I mean, who else can take like a 2-month
Right.
break away from their job, you know?
I love because there's not right here, but there's kind of when he starts walking around where he's got like all the maps under his arm, he's got the glasses, his shoulders are kind of shrugged, and he's very like, oh well, according to my calculations. But really, it's like, I'm gonna fucking crack this whip and fuck your bitch, and that's who Indiana Jones is. You know, there is something funny about seeing him kind of like, sir, you know, at first, but it's you know,
Yep.
it's weird because apparently the Harrison Ford was like, yeah, I'm down for this, but like, goddamn, dude, I just did this shit. Like, I just did this with Han Solo, and they're like, we'll let you do this other side of it too, and be kind of like bookish. And he's like, okay, cool, I'm down for that. But this is my third time working with Lucas, and I've been the bad guy in American Graffiti, the cool guy in this, and now I'm going to be the badass in this movie, and I don't want to keep doing that shit. You know, it's not like he ever went out and played fucking, you know, like some groundbreaking character, but at least it got him away from just that like Tom Selleck kind of hunk, you know, thing.
And
That's
to
a
be
good
fair,
point.
it's fun to watch him in these scenes where he's teaching them, you know, flipping the board around. He's like, and you know, he's drawing it. This is where the staff was supposed to point you to. It like that's even great. He nails it, you know.
Well, and also, I mean, did you guys miss the subtext of him banging his students?
Well,
I mean, the bitch in the front row with the love your I fucking eyelids. Dude, she wants that solo dick.
Well, like, because I think this is something that happens in all three of the movies, isn't it? Like, like if you look, it's like all the dudes are in the back, and like all of the female students are up front. It's like, I mean, come on, dude. If like Margot Robbie showed up to my school, I would knife a man in the ribs. I'd just be like, shh, just go to sleep.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, you be very careful about how you speak about my Australian brethren. Okay, be very careful. I'll have it first, and then you can have it.
Okay, fine. Well, like, what is our version of Margot Robbie? I'll take Jennifer Lawrence. Okay, that'll be fine.
No,
No,
what?
but there,
No, there's no comparison. What the fuck?
no, but there is something so funny seeing just like all of these girls, and then the guy who slams the apple down when he's leaving, like, oh, I was trying to fuck Dr. Jones, and he walks off. Like, the guy who just slams the apple down on his desk, and it's like, did you lose a bet? Like, why are you so mad? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we get we get this exposition scene, and like this is interesting because this he's so good at this. Spielberg is. I mean, like this. There's a scene like this in every movie, except I think Temple of Doom, where Indy sits down with a couple of guys, and these guys tells him the stakes of like what's going on. And we need you to go out and get this shit. Like, you know?
right. The stakes are high. It's strictly confidential in the largest room in the entire school.
Totally.
Cracks me
But
up.
it doesn't feel boring. Like, you know, like there's the way that we're going about this. Like Ford's performance here is just of genuine interest. Like, you know, he's just like, he's so into it. And these guys are just, you know, lapping it up. Like, dude, by the way, one of the guys, the chubbier guy, that's Porkins from A New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's what's his name in this? It's like McEaton or something like that. It's something mean about him being like a fat dude. I swear to God, dude. And they're like, who named Porkins is what I call my chubby little dog. Tom, come here, you little Porkins. And I rest.
Have you guys seen Blue Harvest?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude. He's like, I'm going down. It's like Tom Arnold or something in that.
I don't even think the pod sits on top of it. It's off of it.
Yeah. His gut is like hanging, and he's like scraping along the Death Star.
Like, how subtle is that? Jesus Christ.
Inside the cockpit, there's like McDonald's and shit. There's just wrappers everywhere.
That's terrible. Well, there's something about him here that cracks me up. Is like when you're looking at everybody, like you know, for a second there, I forgot that this took place in 35 because the order's 36 and the other one is 35. Temple of Doom is 35 apparently. Like they fucking would do them out of order.
Yes, Temple of Doom is 35. Oh well, I mean, I don't know if it's 35, but it's definitely before World War II because they didn't want to use Nazis again as the bad guys. That's why.
Okay. So the real order is almost like 213.
Yeah.
But the guy playing Porkins is like, oh, this looks like an 80s like the guy's from Predator or something like that. You know, he's got just like a regular tie and suit on. And I was like, whoa, wait. This is 1936, dude. You look like you walked out of an Eddie Murphy movie. You know, like there's something weird about the way that Porkins is dressed. And I'm like, you are like Francis Sinclair, the time traveler out of Red Dead 2. Like, who the fuck are you? Like, why are you here? But there's something awesome about the way that Spielberg specifically sets up shots for, like, if you're looking at like 16 minutes, 45 seconds, everybody is in one shot. And it's like the back of somebody's head. Indy's here. He's here. It's just this great way that he blocks stuff, but also you can see the whole architecture of this room. And God damn, that is some old gorgeous fucking craftsmanship. And it's gorgeous, dude. It's awesome. I love that.
Right. No, absolutely, dude. You hit the nail on the head. But you know, like I said, this scene sets everything up. So basically, Indy's they're wanting to look for Abner Ravenwood, right? And Indy knows someone who's of the Ravenwood name, and hopefully we can get this going, right? But yeah, this is where we find out about the Well of Souls, dude. You know how long it took me to discover that the Ark of the Covenant was a real thing? Like I had no idea. And like apparently in every culture it's a thing. Like even in like Islam, what? Yeah, dude, Islam have their own fucking thing as well. It's wild.
Oh, okay. So okay, that's wow, that's right. I didn't know that. Well, because you were like, I didn't know about the Ark of the. I was like, well, I mean, you also weren't raised, and you're like, oh no, Muslims. I was like, okay, then never mind.
But I know what the fucking Ten Commandments were. Like,
I know that. But still, that's like the.
Can we just acknowledge that?
That's like the spark notes of Christianity.
Because I was raised a Muslim, I don't know who Jesus was. Can we just acknowledge that?
Zoheb, do you know who Santa is? No, I'm just kidding.
Is that the fat
No, because I was like, well, everybody, the Ten Commandments, everybody, but some people don't know about like Sodom and Gomorrah, the Ark of the Covenant. Like I was raised in a church for a long time, so I know a lot of these stories like by heart. But like if somebody were like, hey, you know, the Ark of the Covenant, the Muslim version, I'd be like, what the fuck? Is that like subtitled? What is that? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I have no idea.
That's another thing. I think that's another reason why I like Raiders a little bit over Last Crusade, is because in Last Crusade they're looking for something a lot more famous, like, you know, a lot more known, and I'm just like, okay, you know, it takes a little bit of the fun out of it, because like the Ark of the Covenant I needed to research and read about, and you know, it's terrifying. You know, apparently it was used to carry around the Ten Commandments and shit, but like, you know, like it's yeah, I don't know. I like the subtlety more about the Ark of the Covenant, I think, as opposed to
there's something kind of mysterious about it. Yeah.
No, totally. But yeah, like this is also where we get the an inkling of what the power of the Ark of the Covenant is, right? Lightning, fire. Like, you know, you've got that photo of or the drawing of them kind of like on that raised platform and the beams coming out. So we already know that the Ark of the Covenant is some fucking dark shit, right?
Right.
Well, it all sounds like awesome, like Sith powers, you know? He's like lightning, fire, and he's like double backflips.
Unlimited power! You just hear the fucking Emperor's voice coming out of the fucking box.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, Indy's basically got his orders. They're going to let him go look for the Ark of the Covenant. And Indy's first stop is Nepal.
Booty call. No. He's there for a reason.
He's there for a reason.
This is another thing that fucks me up about the time of Indiana Jones. What is the name of his like Q or M? You know, what his James Bond counterpoint?
You're talking about the kind of like principal kind of guy.
Marcus Brody?
The guy who was like, I'd go with you if they let
Brody.
me. Yes, yeah. Okay, Marcus Brody. Dude, this would so fucking be Martin Freeman today. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Yeah. That is a perfect casting for Martin Freeman. I would love to see him in that role. And he kind of plays that role sometimes, but I looked at that guy, I was like, oh, so who's that, like Martin Freeman's dad or something? I was like, that definitely seems like Martin, you know, like a Martin Freeman role. But I thought this was this movie when he's like, he speaks 7 different languages. He's probably halfway there by now, and he's like, hello, can you help me? And he's like walking around talking to people. I was like, okay, yeah, like I thought that was this movie, but he's one of my favorite parts of the whole trilogy. I love him. Well, I guess 4 movies.
What a great tone setter, as Zoheb has pointed out, like is really well tuned in this movie is the tone, and I feel like you said earlier, like they wouldn't be able to recreate this today. There's little things they would miss. This character being played by him, and I had his name pulled up earlier, playing Marcus Brody was excellent. Thank you, hopefully, for pulling it up. That's what you're doing.
Denham Elliott. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. He does great in this. I love him in Last Crusade, but he always has that great, oh man, I love it.
Quick question for you, Danny.
Yeah.
And probably for you too, Colin, because you've seen Last Crusade as well. Belloc or Donovan? Which one do you reckon is a better villain?
Because Donovan's the guy who shows up in Last Crusade, who's like befriends him at first, and then he ends up being the bad guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Belloc because he's French and he is a Nazi, but like not a Nazi. But the other guy is like, I don't know. There's something I remember about Last Crusade. He's like the fountain of youth, Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
Like there's something memorable about that as well.
I'll say the same exact way that you rated these movies in your brain, Zoheb, that I have more fun with the villain when well, I'm not sure that's true. You know what? I think it might be Belloc, but I've always really liked Donovan from Last Crusade, especially because of his brief appearance in Empire Strikes Back as the commander the general. He's a general that's like pushing the front line on Hoth. And I always realized
he gets choked out, right?
No. I'm not.
Oh, no, he's the guy in the AT-AT, right?
General Veers.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
the one who fucks everything up, yeah.
I don't know if you noticed this, but I feel like he's one of the only motherfuckers in that whole thing that is an officer that speaks to Vader the way that he speaks to him. Like, there's not a lot of people in that whole thing that usually, like, speak up.
Your landing.
Yeah, but just him being in the throne room whenever the helmet comes down on him and him seeing that and him not being shaken by it, he's just still like, just stands there just like perfect and takes it and he's like debating with him. He came out of Lightspeed. He's as clumsy as he is stupid, like just him being able to speak back to somebody like that and not just choking him out, being like, shut the fuck up and do what I tell you to. Like he actually has a conversation with him. It's just so weird. I always picked up on that. And for some reason, that carried over into Last Crusade every time I saw him. However, now that you're bringing that up, which is such an excellent point, I think Donovan is much more of a manager, a majority of The Last Crusade, than he is an actual player. Whereas in this, Belloc is actually at the dig and doing some of these things. I feel like Donovan shows up at parties and shows up at like locations to say, good job, keep doing this, Indy. And then later when he starts getting discovered, he's like, he knows that it's him, and he's like a bad guy. Maybe that's when he starts getting a little bit more Belloc-y. But I think Belloc is a little bit more in the field and has probably better moments, maybe. Even though I like Last Crusade better.
I think that's a good point as well, because Donovan relies a lot on Elsa to do his work as well, right? I mean, like, there's a lot of subterfuge in that movie too.
Yeah, she is a the double agent and is instrumental. His instrument, to be literal about it. You're right. Throughout, I would say probably half that movie until she no longer really has kind of like that pull over him for the most part.
Right. So we get to the scene in Marion's bar. Let's talk about this drink off with the human.
You mean
is this a man?
Yeah,
Susan Boyle over here.
They just confirmed that that's the first mutant sighting in a Indiana Jones series. By the way, I don't know if you knew that, but it's really subtle.
It's a big bitch, man. Like she's worked on some farms, She's used her hands a lot.
She knows how to take a punch.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I was like, either this is a very unattractive woman or a very, very, very unattractive man. Like either way you spin it, it's a plate of shit either way, but there's somebody, there's something so funny about like at this scene, everything, and I'm not trying to jump too far ahead, but like there's no other buildings out here. There's nothing there. And this place burns down. It's like, you've devastated the local economy. There's like 4 buildings to this town, and you've just destroyed 25% of this town's like anything. Like, it just kind of cracked me up.
This just in, ladies and gentlemen. Colin believes that there's only 2 genders. Let's go get him. Let's go get him.
That just cracked me up.
Hey, you know who that is that she's doing the drinking contest with, right? It's Frances McDormand.
Frances McDormand. That would be fucking great. Just like
that transformation is insane.
I liked Colin's pull on Susan Boyle.
Yes,
Susan.
That's awesome. It's Glenn Close so and makeup.
Right. But Indy rocks up and talks to Marion. Again, dude, I love that shot of the silhouette just showing up, and she's kind of like looking off in the distance. Like that is poster worthy to me. Like, you know, that is so good. But basically, we find out that there's some kind of backstory with these two, and this is where things get a little weird. Because if you're okay, look, they had something romantic going on. You know, they had something, I guess, carnal going on. And if you factor in Indiana's age, I mean, like, doesn't she say that she was like super young?
That's what I was trying to, because Harrison Ford is like 40 when they're making these, but she's like 30. Like, there's about a decade, you know, which is not anything crazy. But I'm like, when, like, how old are we talking? Is she supposed to be like 19? Like, like, how old are we talking about here?
Right.
Like,
well, she said, doesn't she say I was a child?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and apparently, okay, look, there is information on the internet that you can go ahead and like search this up because it is backed up. George Lucas wanted to make her like 14.
That's weird. Why was that a thing?
Spielberg and Frank Marshall.
That was so
Spielberg
weird.
and Frank Marshall were like, no.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way we're making her 14.
Well, and the weird thing is just like that was so commonplace back then that it was like, well, you're going to live to be 46, so you're going to have 3 kids by the time you're 12. You know, and it was like, Jesus Christ, man. But yeah, like, do you mean that more figuratively? Like you were 18, 19, like you were an adult child? Like you were legally an adult, but like mentally not an adult? Like, in what context do you mean that? Because nowadays you kind of brush it off like, oh, you know, it was Indiana Jones running through town and breaking hearts kind of thing. But now it reads like Indiana Jones, like on stop 37 of his serial spree. Like, right. It's like, well, what does this mean now?
Like he's about to, like he's about to join the Catholic clergy.
Right. Yeah. Like he's going to wind up being fucking, you know, Golden State Killered in about 20 years. And they're going to find, you know, just like a string of victims. Like what the hell is going on? But, you know, I think there's something, because if this is what, like 10 years ago, it's like, well, what's the age difference here? I don't know. You know, I think they try to definitely play it down, but like, why even put the line in there? It's not all that necessary, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. And it is one of those things that's permeated pop culture. You'll find articles about it. Like it's interesting because lately, Colin, you and I on feature presentations, we haven't been talking about movies of this scale in terms of pop culture resonance. Like, you know, like we talk about Drive, you know, we talk about Prisoners, we talk about movies that are not essentially household names. So when we do come across movies like this that have so much baggage, you know, so like everyone's seen them, everyone's writing articles about them, everyone has a opinion about them. You know, like you're going to find shit on the internet that's you know, they're going to be opinion pieces and stuff. So there is so much already out there about this.
Yeah, I don't know. Do they ever say what they did? It's only that they were just, you know, emotionally in love. Oh
no! I mean, like, no, I don't think they fucked. I mean, I'm just saying. Like,
okay.
I think they were. But look, whether they were emotionally in love or not, I mean, I think there's the age difference alone is enough to be like, yeah, what is this kind of thing?
I'd smash the fuck out of Karen Allen, though. Good Lord, Karen! Oh, good God,
Karen Allen,
dude, she's the mom from Sandlot. Dude, absolutely, she's like 30 here. You know, she was the mom from Sandlot. I'll take her in 15 years. That's the first time I saw her, and she's still smoking hot. I'll take her in Crystal Skull.
Have you seen Elsa?
I have. But something about Karen Allen. Like Elsa, don't get me wrong, absolutely. But there's something about Karen Allen that's like, you know, she can take a punch, she outdrinks that. But I was like, yeah, like somebody shoots that barrel and she's holding the torch, and before she hits him, she's like, let me get a guy, and just starts drinking. I was like,
I'm glad you brought that up.
I was like, that's the type that's like, yeah, I'd like to get your number, please.
I'll take the Fraulein from the third movie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Data, treacherous Nazi. Yeah. She'll love you. Let me tell you about it.
She can betray me all she wants, dude. There's one thing I want.
So remember, she's also been with your dad.
Yes.
Oh. You know what? Worth it.
As long as it's not at the
Worth
same
it.
time or on the same day, I can handle it.
Oh, worth it.
Jesus.
And like me and my dad only find out when we're like tied like by a rope back to
To a
back
fucking
in a
burning chair,
building.
basically.
Yeah. But no, look. So the Gestapo walks in, right? This guy, Major Arnold Todt, whatever, sadistic Gestapo agent. This guy's terrifying, by the way.
He looks like he's 12.
What? Really?
He looks like a 14-year-old. Like, he looks like he's on another person's shoulders wearing a trench coat to me. What are you doing here? Like, and they act like he's so diabolical and smart, and then that medallion is just melting, and he's like,
He's a moron.
it's like, dude, like, what are you, Joe Pesci in Home Alone? Grow the fuck up, you idiot! Like, it's been baking in fire. Like, what are you doing?
He's German, bro. He's dumb.
Yeah, I can handle the fire.
But this is like, this is like he's trying to get the location of the headpiece from her by force, right? Like he threatens to brand her, right? And then we get Indy come in, we get this action sequence. I love this. This is fun. This is a lot of fun. Like I just love the little flourishes in all of these movies, dude. The things that don't need to be there that are in there. Like, Marion just drinking from the leaking the leaking thing. Like, like even just the trail of fire that's reaching Indy's head, because that's how fire works. I love it, dude. It's good stuff. It's fun. It's fun to watch. But yeah, it's funny watching Todt kind of like go outside and just like dig his hand into the fucking snow.
Yeah. Well,
like all of this is great.
The cinema, I love the shot of them out in the snow, like shouting at each other, and she holds up the medallion. I was like, right in the front of the frame. I was like, oh, that looks good.
Yeah, but what a tag along line, right? Like she's screaming at him, like, "Where you go with me now?" It's just so in his face. I always thought it was such a funny. It would have been funny if she said that and the scene continued, and he just at a normal tone was like, "Okay," just completely different than her tone. I don't know.
Totally. And then we shift over to Cairo, right? I mean, like this is we meet John Rhys Davis as Salah, who is. This is back when you can get away with a British guy playing a brown person.
You had me fooled. I straight up thought he was like, you said Gimli, and I was like,
actually?
holy shit. I had no, because I've never really like followed this guy. I was like, he seems familiar. I definitely feel like this guy must have played Pavarotti at some point. No, I'm just kidding. I don't but I mean, he goddamn, come on, dude.
Dude, he's in brownface.
Is he real? Holy shit! Honestly, I wasn't really looking for it, but still,
I think it's more like tan face than anything. To be honest,
that makes me think of there's a Futurama, where they keep everybody's heads in jars, and Bender has Lucy Liu, and he fucking opens up his thing.
Pavarotti.
Yeah, get lost, Pavarotti! No, and he just throws him over. He like throws him over a ledge. But this guy, come on, dude, he's the most Stanley Kubrick looking motherfucker on the planet. Like, how is this guy? Like, how is this guy? Like, now that I think about it, now that I know, I'm like, I feel stupid. I feel really dumb. But I guess his voice is like, I don't know. Maybe he is like born there, but he was raised in England. I don't know. Yeah. There's something about him that I was like, dude, he also would have been an awesome like Beast from the X-Men. I love just that size, but he's also kind of compassionate. He's smart. I love this guy as a character, though.
Well, look, they're in a foreign land, so they need a monkey. Right?
Oh, Jesus. This thing's weird. They got this thing from Tim Burton's Batman Returns. Like, I don't know what.
Dude,
fuck this thing.
The worst line reading in this movie. It's a date. You get him.
Oh, dude, so weird. It's really weird watching Indy and her just have chit chat, and he's like carrying around just random stuff, and he's like, "It's a day, you can have one, but hey, you have any chocolate covered almonds?" Like, it just seems weird.
Here's the thing: it's weird. It's weird because I think they do have decent chemistry. I think it's just the lines themselves, maybe because like when you see Marion and Indy like talk and interact with each other and laugh, like I think there is, maybe it's just because of how natural of an actor Harrison Ford is. Like, you know, he's able to really play this kind of like laid back, chill person incredibly well because he's been doing it for years already at this point. So it's interesting that the lines like, you know, it's a date, you eat them, like just kind of like come off as a little strange.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the thing that really weirds me out is this relationship with the monkey, where the monkey is like running and telling this guy with the eye patch information, and the monkey is sea highling. I'm like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it. Like, I just wanted the monkey to, like, I don't know, lift its hat up and it had just had like the top of its head shaved or something like that. Like,
is that a war crime?
Yeah. Like,
do you reckon the monkey could be charged at The Hague for that?
Yeah.
Shit?
Well, like, were you at the Nuremberg? Like, like, were you at the trials?
Yeah, Nuremberg trials.
Yeah. But yeah, there's something just weird about this monkey where I'm like, listen, I know this is 1930 something. I understand that. I don't go to a country where you know, like this and let animals crawl on me. It's like, nah, I don't know where the fuck you're from, dude. I'm good. And she's like letting that shit crawl in her hair and fuck her mouth and stuff. I'm like, get out of here.
Keep the rabies away from me.
Yeah,
please.
that's, I'm like, oh man, that just, that, you know, that monkey is just crawling with shit. And it's like, it makes me sick thinking about it.
Fuck.
Ugh.
Yeah, but look, they get jumped, right, by a couple of Aladdin-looking motherfuckers. And this kicks off this kind of like, it's silly, this action sequence, but I really dig this. This whole running through the streets, the baskets, right? Marion inside the baskets. I don't love the indie. I don't love that, like that whole thing, but like,
It almost just seems like Scooby-Doo-ish at one point when she's going down one way and then appears completely somewhere else coming across the hallway. I was like, all right, now, wait a fucking minute.
Right.
That's
actually something that I kind of want. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about the action sequences in this movie. The action scenes in this movie are pretty dynamic, like in terms of like inside the action scene themselves, like what's happening. So there'd be different kind of like flourishes. Like, so for example, like when we get to the truck chase later, like it's Indy falling off the grill or like, you know, using the rope to like hang on to himself. Like it's really like creative things, or even just like the propeller later. Like, you know, I don't know. There's something about these action sequences that aren't just, you know, I'm going to take cover, take a shot at that guy, and then like take cover again. You know, there's something that's really movement-like and very fluid about these scenes that I really enjoy.
Well, that makes one of us. No, I'm just kidding. No, like this is where, to me, like this movie, like, you know, like Aliens. Like Aliens is definitely an action movie set in like a sci-fi thing, and you can say with the first Alien, it's like a horror movie set in like a sci-fi thing. But this, to me, it feels like it definitely is like swashbuckling, you know, whips and hangings, and, you know, we're going to fly around, right, and, you know, we're going to hang from ropes and stuff. But there's definitely part of it that's just goofy as fuck. I mean, it is Scooby-Doo. It is total Scooby-Doo. And there's something just kind of like pushing through the crowds. Oh, you turn a corner and now there's like 90 different baskets and they're all the same. It's like, dude, that is so like old school, like what Danny said, like the feet, like.
Well, I think you said it, Colin. Old school. I think you kind of like need to look at where they got their influence, right? So they talk about, you know, we modeled Indiana Jones after the 30s and 40s, kind of like serial cartoons. Right. So that's the feeling that we were going for. Even the punches, dude. Like, I remember the first time I heard the sound mixing of the punch, like whenever like Indiana Jones delivers a punch to a villain, it's got this bassy kick to it, dude. And I was like, that feels like, I don't even know what it feels like, but I know it sounds like the word classic should be. Like, you know, it almost feels. I really enjoy
Adam West Batman, like the, you know, kind of like the
right. Yeah, you can almost see the word pop up. Yeah, absolutely. So this scene here, in Egypt, it's actually Tunisia, and apparently Spielberg described this filming phase as one of his worst filming experiences ever. The temperature was often over 130 degrees Fahrenheit, so 54 degrees Celsius, and over 150 crew members became sick with amoebic dysentery from the local food. Spielberg was one of the few to remain healthy because he ate food and water he brought from England. fucking la-di-da. Lucas also suffered a severe sunburn and facial swelling. The Cairo village was filmed in Kairouan, and an entire day of filming was lost there because of over 300 TV antennas that had to be removed from surrounding houses.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, it is 1980 something, you know.
Yeah. But this moment here, when Indiana Jones faces off with this swordsman, Daddy, do you know the backstory about this?
I do.
I feel like you might.
I do.
So, in the script, it was supposed to be a giant showdown, a big action sequence. You know, apparently this swordsman, the guy that plays him, practiced so much in the lead up to this. He was really excited.
Yeah.
And on the day, because everyone was sick, it was really hot. Harrison Ford just goes up to Spielberg and says, "Why didn't I just shoot him?" And they just shot him, dude.
Yep.
And the fucking poor swordsman. You know, he got his like 1 moment of screen time, and that was it. He didn't get this big actor.
Oh man, like that's one of those movie facts I honestly wish I didn't know. Because anytime I watch this scene now, I'm like, that poor fucking guy. Because like he practiced, he was gonna have this huge moment, and now he's known as the guy that just like clumsily brought a knife to a gunfight.
Right. But this is one of those moments I distinctly remember watching as a kid and being like, oh, Indiana Jones is a different kind of action adventure movie. Like, you know, like this is a little smarter. I feel like, you know, this isn't one of those big action set piece moments. I love the resigned look on Ford's face as he pulls out the gun and he's just like, you know what, I'm just going to shoot this guy and move on.
Mm.
Like there's something really about that that's really, really awesome. I love that moment. That's one of my favorite moments in the entire movie.
Yep. I love the tone, that it brings to it. And you're right. That's well put. It is that definitely sets itself apart, especially them making it seem like it's going to be a huge dramatic. Everything about that first 5 seconds before he shoots him is like iconic of every action scene you see. The music gets big, the crowd perfectly separates. There's like a special villain. You've never seen anybody quite dressed like him. He's got a big scimitar, and then he just shoots him. It's great.
He's like a mini boss in a video game. That's just like, I'll get you later.
Right, totally.
Right, and then like to Zoa's point, it's almost like there's abilities in the video game you didn't even realize you could unlock, in the sense that he's just like, no, this is how we do it, and he shoots him, and you're like, whoa, how else is he gonna like solve other problems later if like that's how practical it almost like you think of getting out of some of these situations.
Absolutely. We get the truck explosion, right? Indy believes that Marion is dead. He's lamenting, he's drinking by himself with the monkey, right? I mean, okay, Danny, looks like you have thoughts about this.
Does that not look like just like such a fast give up?
Yeah.
Like he turns the corner and it blows up, and he does like that kind of stagger run to it, but I feel like he's like 3 steps into it and then he's like, look, 99. It's just so fast. I always cracked up at the editing, but it's consistent because also we know there's probably a chance she's not dead. Because if anybody probably known anything about this movie, maybe they probably have an inkling that she shows up later in it also from previews or maybe. But yeah, it matches the tone of how they edited the rest of the movie, and it always just sort of cracks me up now.
Can we get to Indiana Jones using children as a shield? That's great.
I was just about to jump onto that scene, dude. Like, you know, it's good to know that Belloc does not target children.
Yeah. Well, it's also good to know Indy.
He can align himself with Nazis. You know what? Jewish people? Fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Blacks, Jews, gays. Fuck them all. Yeah.
Yeah. Who cares? Who gives a shit?
But you're a brown kid.
Egyptian children, I will draw the line, sir, at Egyptian children.
Yeah. That's what. Well, also for Indy, I know Indy doesn't like, and all the kids just like form human, and they just like lock up on him. But there is something funny about the fact that like that Indiana Jones has like, you know, basically like an Iron Man suit of 9 to 11-year-olds. He can just like it's morphin' time, and he just turned into like a bunch of kids.
I mean, if those kids were half a second later and they would have already opened fire while they were running in there, the movie would have had a completely different tone.
Like at first it's like, what are these kids? Shazam! Like they're Shazam, and they all become Indiana Jones.
We will end the
Also-
movie right now, kids. And it's like super fast.
These aren't all Sala's children, right? Because that guy must fuck like a rabbit.
Well, I mean, to each his own.
a ruler of the Queen's Navy.
I got a
That
big
still
dick.
only counts as one. It's interesting because, like, let's talk about a little bit about this moment between Belloc and Indy, because Belloc talks about the Ark, and I really, really like Belloc's reverence for the Ark. Like, you know, he's talking about how it's basically a radio communication between like two gods,
Right.
And there's something about, you know, just how much Belloc respects it as much as Indy respects it as well. But Belloc doesn't have the knowledge that Indy does, or the foresight that Indy does, you know? I really like that these two are able to kind of like go toe to toe intellectually in that sense.
Right. It's not all just guns and punches.
Yeah, Indy's wasted half that time, so he is almost like more rebuttaling than he is. But I'm glad that you brought that scene up, because that's something that I appreciated more recently this time around than I did in the past. And that is him explaining to Indy, you know, you and I are so alike, which you already brought up, but he's like, it just takes one thing to push you out of the light. I mean, he's almost explaining that, and he says, I'm just a shadow image of you, or you're a shadow image of me, or whatever he says.
Right.
I think it's just such a cool way to frame those two. But, and I was trying to think about today, why I couldn't really quite distinguish today when I was rewatching this, like how to like know the difference, like how to really truly describe it, the difference between Belloc and Indy, until Zoheb kind of said it. And I think now I can almost frame it. It's like Indy has that hands-on real world experience, whereas Belloc has an intellectual, like book smart experience.
Belloc has the whole like let me get other people to do my work for me.
But also
Physical work.
to his benefit, it's pretty awesome at how he does it, right? He learns how to speak and befriend an entire native tribe so that he could get closer to that icon in the beginning of the movie. So it's not like he's haphazardly reading books through this to hopefully find the magic scroll he's looking for. It's more of like, you know, he's approaching this much more methodically, but I just loved how he's like, we are right next to each other on this whole journey. If you just look over, we're shadow images, and it just takes one push to push you out of the light. So that was a great way to frame him. Glad you brought that up.
So, look, they find out that the Nazis are digging in the wrong place from Osama bin Laden. Right.
That's terrible.
Is that I missed that part?
Yeah.
But, ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what cracks me up. Is just this, like, it's such an 80s moment of just like, oh, they're in the wrong place. Oh, I am the monarch of the sea. And it's like, what are you? Are you Gwen Stefani? If I was a rich girl. I'm like, what are you, fucking Fiddler on the Roof over here?
I like the logic, though. I like the logic of like them looking like if we translate the medallion there, and because, you know, Danny and myself, I don't know about you, Colin, but we've seen this movie before. So, like, you know, we've seen the moment where he's in the map room and, you know, he's using the sun to find the location. We know that because of that foresight, if you're a couple of centimeters off, you're 100% digging in the wrong place, right? So when we're watching this scene, we're like, oh, okay, that's you know, logically that makes sense. I really dig that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, yeah.
I want to point out that on our video version of this, as the movie was playing and the beam was coming down into the room, because I've just let it hit play from earlier, and sometimes I'm skipping around to what we're talking about. That came down right as the light in the back behind you and your window, Zoheb, came down. And that synced up so perfectly that while you were talking, I was like, oh my God!
That's
But
awesome.
that's what I brought up earlier. They were talking about if he was never in this movie, would they have still gotten the same outcome? And that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't that shaman, you know, that they needed that shaman to tell them both sides of the medallion, or even the shaman in general to tell them about the medallion. Would Balak have known that?
No, again, that all leads to like the Nazis wouldn't have found the Ark without Indy,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
the bottom line. Yeah. Bad dates, apparently, right? Dead monkey.
Good catch.
Poor guy. Killed
I
by his
love
own owner. That's terrible.
Oh,
Yeah, good way to get rid of the monkey in this.
it's shit. Well, I mean, look, it was littered with rabies.
Well,
and whatever,
it was going
other
to turn
disease,
over
so-
state's evidence, so you had to put that monkey out.
It was a mercy killing.
Yeah, it was going to pull
It
a
was a
Henry. It was
mercy
going to pull a
killing.
Henry Hill. You can't have no rats.
Totally. Right. Something about Karen pulling a gun on him and
That was all
slicing
our money,
onions or garlic
Karen.
in the- the fucking monkey's slicing garlic in jail.
The fucking monkey's cooking the sausages, just staring at him like $3,500 wasn't even enough for the funeral.
Oh my god. All right, dude. I'm only a few drinks down, and I'm a little barbecued, and I really need to pee. So, what do you guys reckon we take a break right in?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cool, guys. We'll be right back with more Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I'm kidding. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Hey guys, what's going on? Colin jumping in here in the middle. Just kind of let you know some stuff that's going on at Midnight Double Feature. First off, please stop by and rate and review us on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. It helps out so much. It takes 5 seconds and it's free. So there you go. We would really appreciate it. Also, you can find us on our socials. We're on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Instagram at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Twitter at MDF Pod. Please also join the group that we have attached to our Facebook page. It's called the After Party. Everybody's invited. That group has been really expanding, and we're really excited to see where it's going. We can also find our website, midnightdoublefeature.com. We got our merch there. If you want to know something, you want to find us on our socials, you want to see what all's going on, that's kind of like our main hub. That's really where to find it if you want it. We also have a podcast for Breaking Bad that we have going on. It's called Bad Crystal. It's an interesting show where I actually haven't seen any of the episodes of Breaking Bad. Zoheb has seen it like 15 times, and he's kind of leading me through it. I'm experiencing it for the first time with a veteran, and it's an interesting dynamic, and it's a lot of fun. And lastly, if you really want to support the show and really put all your cards on the table, we do have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature. It's $5 a month. There's only one tier. You get all access to everything that we've got going on. We've got bonus episodes. We've got off the rails kind of stuff. We've got a lot of stuff that's not going to make it to the main page, and there's a lot more geared for Patreon kind of stuff. So we really hope to see you guys over there. Like I said, plans start at $5 a month and end at $5 a month. That's the only one that we've got going on. We really hope that you guys can join up there, and we will hope to see you soon. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Midnight Double Feature, where we're covering Raiders of the Lost Ark. We are freshly squeezed as always. It's myself, and it's Colin, and it's Danny. And we're going to jump back into Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That is three
How you doing,
people
guys?
on this podcast.
That is 3 people on this podcast. If you haven't listened to the first half already, I don't know what you're doing.
We are completely normal and sober.
We're one of us is sober, I think. Well,
Yeah.
actually,
Somebody's got to be the DD on this podcast. If you have everybody drunk on a podcast, that's a bad idea. Somebody's got to be the guy like, don't text your
Whoopsie.
ex. Somebody's got to be the guy like pulling people into the cab. It's a bad idea. Don't do
so
it.
does that mean the Scary Movie podcast is going to be a fucking disaster?
Oh yeah, that's going to be a good one. Thank God it's commentary, so we just could sit back and like, like,
That's funny.
but
So look, we join. We re-meet Indy in the map room, right? And he's using the Staff of Ra. He's finding the location of the Well of Souls. Man, this could be such a simple scene in anybody else's hands, but Spielberg and John Williams and Ford they play this so well. It feels like something big. Like it feels like a big discovery has been made when the sun, obviously shines down
Right.
on like the location, the music, dude, the like that whole vocalization I can see you laughing at me, Daddy. Do you like my pipes?
But no, I'm glad I had the video to accompany that because that really nailed it. That is like Industrial Light and Magic earning their money, man, which I've wanted to bring up multiple times throughout this movie, and especially like through the plane spinning sequence, and then even at other times whenever there's like a biblical, event happening, there's always these crisp sound effects that you just never fucking hear in anything else, and I feel like like Industrial Light and Magic nails it with some of this stuff. It's like it's almost like steel being cooled in like hot steel coming out of a furnace being cooled in water whenever the light hits the crystal in the middle of it and comes down, and like that noise is seared into my movie memory.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. So Indy finds a location. He also finds Marion as well, who he just leaves there.
He just slowly puts the knife away. He's like, I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Like, just play along. Like, hey, you're our person on the inside. I'll be back in a couple hours. You let me know what they're figuring out. Like, nah, I'm just gonna freak out here. Yeah.
He's like, listen, Marion, there's a side chick that I've been getting serious with, and I think it's best you stay here.
Yeah, listen, in case this, I want to have you safe in case this main thing doesn't work out. But they bring her back for she's Shia LaBeouf's mom, right? In Crystal Skull. Right?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? What's this?
I just always defer to that
like
Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber. Like, but
okay, look. Let's get Kingdom of the Crystal Skull out of the way.
We're done. That's it. Thank you.
I don't think it's out and out atrocious. I don't think it's the worst thing ever made. I think it definitely still has, if I'm going to be completely try and be objective about this, it definitely has Spielberg's flourishes about it. Like, it still has a lot of that action adventure feeling about it. It's just, it feels artificial.
It's not worthy of the name, honestly. Like it's
no,
fun.
It's not worthy of the name. Yeah, totally. And it overuses CG to the point where it's absolutely distracting. And if they had done it practically, it would have looked so much better. It would have felt a lot more authentic. And unfortunately, they just didn't go that way. And it ends up feeling like more of an Indiana Jones ripoff than anything.
Yeah.
It's really kind of like, I don't know. It is what it is. I don't hate it. I own all of these movies on 4K. The fourth one obviously I haven't broken that out at all. But I want to one day, when
I aspire to
get over it.
I have not watched it since I saw it with Danny in the theaters. And like, when did it come out? 08, 09? When was that?
08, yeah.
I have not seen it since then. I just remember being like, man, what a waste on Kate Blanchett,
Right.
I was like, wow, one of the best actors of all time, just sitting there like, whew, this is tough, man. Yeah. I'm not trying to ramble, but it's like, God, these sequels 20 years later just don't fucking work. And I'm sorry, like, I'm nervous about the next one that they do. Blade Runner is so the exception.
That is a diamond in the rough. Diamond in the rough.
Like there's so many of them that like 20, 30 years later you try to capitalize on. It's
Dumb and Dumber.
And
Bill and Ted.
It just, I've heard mixed things about the new Bill and Ted. But I heard it wasn't like bad, but I heard it wasn't like, just.
I'm hearing new things about the Space Jam. Apparently it's garbage.
Oh, yeah.
But the first one did not age well anyway, and was never really. Like, I've never been excited about the new Space Jam. I don't know why.
Yeah, dude, I
guess.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess because we're here, we're talking about, the future of the franchise. We can go ahead and talk about James Mangold's next one.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the first time ever, Steven Spielberg's not directing an Indiana Jones movie. It's James Mangold who did fucking Ford vs. Ferrari, Logan, Copland. The guy is an absolute beast when it comes to directing, man. Like, he's just an absolute powerhouse. Mm-hmm. So, that alone, the director alone, really makes me super excited. And we hear reports about Harrison Ford being injured on set, because when is he not injured on set?
It's fucking 90.
So it's like, right, exactly. But I am interested in seeing what new blood could bring to the franchise. And not only that, how James Mangold is going to take the pressure of ending this series, because that's what he's going to have to do. This is going to have to be the last one, surely.
Right. Right.
Like, and he already did that perfectly with Logan. Like, he's already had that pressure and he's overcome it for sure already. So I'm really curious to see how it goes. Even with now Antonio Banderas being cast yesterday, like that, it's really promising. I'm pretty excited to see what they do with this new one.
I honestly, me personally, like, and I'm not attached to this franchise at all. I never grew up with it. Maybe I'm the wrong person, but like this feels better as like a television show. If Prime or Netflix or HBO pick this up and are like, hey, we're doing, a 1 or 2 season Indiana Jones thing, that would be fucking awesome. Hey, we got Henry Cavill, we got somebody, we've got the new Indiana Jones, and this person is going to become, and you can still set stories of like, hey, make it an anthology where you jump from like the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 30s, and you can kind of jump around to like all these different times. I personally think that would be really cool, because it's just like it's like the Tales of Jack Sparrow. It's like there's so many, from beginning to end, there's so many different stories that you could tell that would just be kind of fun, swashbuckling adventures that I don't mind that. It's kind of like James Bond, to me. It's like I don't mind those, because it's just one chapter. It's like Mad Max. It's like one chapter out of a whole life of an adventure. I think that would be kind of continuous.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point for sure. We re-meet with Tot, who's now got an engraving in his hand, which is amazing. I love that little touch, dude.
Yep.
He just licks it. He's like,
He's like,
God, he gives me To Catch a Predator creeps, Like, I just expect Chris Hansen to walk out and, hi, I'm Chris Hansen. Why don't you go and sit on down?
He's like, do you have condoms in your car?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what you have in your car?
You said you were just coming over here for pizza. I don't believe that. I love watching those, dude. I love them.
Dude, they're on YouTube. I fucking love it so much.
Yes. It's so hard to watch some of those sometimes, though, man. Oh.
Now the camera crew is going to come out. I don't want you to be flustered. But when you want to go out that door, because you don't want to go out the other door. Trust me.
So you're a Nazi. What's that about?
He's got the file in his hand.
Yeah. I heard you talking about the mighty hammer of the Germans. What is that about?
Tell you what, but Chris Hansen's got to look into Indiana Jones and Marianne Ravenwood, that relationship, whatever that was.
That's what he really needs to be on the case of.
Yeah. But look, Indy digs right in the correct location, and we get that amazing shot, right? Like while he watches the brown people do their work, and he's just kind of standing around fixing his hat and shit.
I was like, God damn it, dude! Pick up a fucking shovel! God damn it, dude! It just made me so fucking mad. It's like, this would go so much faster, you asshole.
Why is he not concerned about his identity after like 7 p.m.? He's like, man, they don't care after this point. Like some of the Nazis are walking by like, yo, Indy, hey.
Yeah, dude, it cracked me up today. It's a beautiful image, like the sun, all the guys working, him putting
gorgeous.
on the hat. It's like,
yeah, dude, I look forward to seeing it.
That's so fucking good. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, hold on. That's from like 60 feet away, and I recognize you right off the rip. Like, I'm just saying, you're the only dude here wearing a fedora. Just lose it for 5 seconds, dude. Like, god damn.
If we were gonna write our own like Blue Harvest version of this movie, I feel like it would be the same exact silhouette, but really early into the silhouette shot where he's like converting into indie mode, like with the same like soundlessness, you just see a bunch of like silhouettes of Nazis coming up and scuffling with them and taking them away. Like that makes more sense to me. Like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Hey, you idiot! Like,
I'd love to hear. Is that Indiana Jones? The silhouette starts like, no.
Hold on. Is that Indiana Jones?
Dude. Yeah, no, it's goofy.
Indy, it's 130 degrees in this fucking desert. Why are you still wearing a leather jacket?
For real? Like, dude, like, I stay in the get up, man. What's the point of changing? I don't know. That's just me. But there's a part where they lift. I'm not trying to jump ahead, but when they lift the lid up, when they finally get it up and they start pulling it off, and it just cuts to Andy. it cuts to Indy and it's just like, like the face that he's making is so good.
That same face that John Rhys Davis, if I said his name correctly, is making also is hysterical. But it's not whenever they're pulling open the ark or
Well of Souls.
Whenever they're popping it open. Yeah, it's like whenever they're trying to pull up the stone like that's sealing it.
Right.
Not the same, like, yeah, that face that he's making in that is almost like it's like they went back and made that shot on purpose to make it look funny.
I feel like people would, some of the CGI and stuff and some of the digital stuff, I get it. There's a charming quality to it though, with it being kind of kind of not holding up, but still holding up at the same time. I love watching older movies. And I think that's maybe just because of the generation that we all kind of grew up in. Like I like seeing stuff like that. Cause that's what I grew up with, was a lot of matte paintings and 2D stuff and visual fuckery, nothing really digital. And I was like, I like that. It's charming, it's not perfect. Maybe it's not the best thing around these days, but I always enjoy seeing that. It's like, that's nice. I don't know why. It just always makes me a little happy. I was like, I love seeing bad digital stuff in these older movies.
Indy, why does the floor move?
Oh, Jesus.
This is terrifying. The snakes and obviously because Indiana Jones is scared of snakes, then we have to have snakes, right? Somewhere. It's just script writing. It's script writing 101, right? Bringing up his fear or whatever. But also it's funny because his father also has a fear of rats that comes into play a bit later in that other movie as well.
Right.
But I love it, dude. Just character building by virtue of moving the story forward. And then we get the scene with Marion and
I love this.
Yeah. You want to talk about this, Danny?
One of my favorite exchanges of chemistry between two actors in this movie is between Belloc and Marianne, those two characters, when she goes to lunge for the butter knife and
how dare you?
Is that her name? Marion? Sorry, Jesus. That's not her name, slow-mo.
Son of a bitch, you uncultured swine.
But a couple things in this scene, that have just such comedic perfection to them. Her grabbing the butter knife and having it in front of him, but then him immediately busting out laughing makes me laugh 100% of the time, every time. The other thing that always cracks me up is him taking, what's the German officer's name? I've seen this 1,000 times. Tote. So him taking out that chain hanger cracks me up as well.
Oh my God, dude.
That's just perfect. It's so over the top, but for all the other shit in this movie, that's the type of thing that I'm here for.
I'm pretty sure I've seen spoofs of this moment, right? I mean, in I think movies like Airplane or The Naked Gun, where someone walks into a room who's interrogating someone and they just keep pulling out random things and making it into something that's so wildly doesn't need to be there, but they're so dangerous on first glimpse. I'm pretty sure this is a Family Guy skit, for sure.
Show somewhere.
But he makes her put that dress on. I've always found this moment of the movie to be a bit weird. What is
R. Kelly?
Because, he wants to fuck her, right? He says to the Germans, "Leave me the girl," right?
Yeah, well, and there's something kind of...
He's definitely after the forbidden fruit.
Yes, right? Absolutely. And there's something kind of funny about, it's a weird character thing because he definitely does. It's not just give me the girl because I'll kill her and rape her. Right? He actually genuinely, I like you. You seem like a fun person, But there's something hilarious about then setting up the fact that she could drink Susan Boyle under the table and then showing up with this French guy. And it's oh, dude, this French guy's going down after 4 glasses of wine, and they're fucking pounding that bottle.
He points out right from the get-go, he's family label. So he's been sipping that shit forever. Yeah. He's not going to get drunk off of that. Surely he's easily, or at least he's tempered with it.
Right.
I like it. He's definitely formidable.
Right. I wanted him to be hammered, and then at the end she pulls out the knife, but he he just starts running circles around her. It's it's family blend. I'm so used to it.
I trained in 0G in this condition.
Yeah. I drank this on the moon. It's just running circles around.
But then I took an arrow to the knee.
Yeah.
So look, there are a couple moments in this in the Well of Souls when the snakes aren't snakes. Like, I don't know if you guys are watching in the background, but there is no movement.
It's just a bunch of garden hoses cut up.
Yes. When he's staring up at Belloc, none of them are moving. Well, I guess sometimes they are, but it looks like they're kept in a coil and somebody's pulling a string from some side, so the whole coil is moving as one unit. I never noticed that before. That's funny.
You've never noticed that, dude? I noticed that when I was a kid.
No, there are other things that I noticed. Like at one point, Marion's running through earlier before the whole basket Scooby-Doo fucking debacle. There's a guy that's pointing a knife at her, but then when it clips like from her point of view, he's holding the knife inverted. It makes no fucking sense, and there's so many quick exchanges of the camera that I always notice.
Fucking cut his hand, like there's blood running from his
Not
hand.
inverted, I guess that way. That's funny. No, inverted is in like it's instead of the sharp side facing down, the sharp side of it was facing up. And so keeps, and it's a very curved knife. So as the camera switches like 3 or 4 times really fast, you just see it like flop back and forth really oddly. Anyway, never saw the snake thing.
So Belloc eventually catches onto what Indy's doing, right? Like they found him in the Well of Souls. Dr. Jones! He's waving his hat like a fucking Frenchman.
Like a dick.
Right? Like a dick. There's all of the German soldiers in the entire Third Reich are standing right outside, by the way.
Yeah.
There's so many soldiers, man. It's crazy. But yeah, they throw Marion in, right? They hoist the Ark up and they trap them in there. Or so they think. This is Marion gets a little on my nerves in this moment. You know, there's a lot of Indy crying stuff.
Yeah, I like her.
I guess, you know, well, look, I guess it is 1936 and women didn't have rights, right? So
yeah, well, also this is
that too.
1980, and it's like for her to even be just this like drinking that person under the table and being able to throw a punch is like, whoa, that's totally, you know, I don't remember seeing that a lot in movies growing up. So I think it's one thing here where it's like, again, the movie, I guess it's just kind of like wanting her to be what they want her to be at certain times. Like, oh, you'll be a badass and you'll throw punches and drink people under the table. But when it comes to snakes, she'll just be like, oh my God. It's like, well,
is that a snake on your whip?
Right.
Oops.
Jesus Christ, dude. She's not a dumb idiot. Like, she's a good character, but I think that Karen Allen's, she does the best with, I think, what they're kind of giving her. But ultimately, it's like, I would like to see her, if this is somebody, even Indiana Jones is like, you know, has feelings for itself, I would like to see her kind of give, kind of do Indiana Jones type things. And she does that at the beginning. But yeah, at this point, I see exactly what you mean. It's very just like, oh, a car is coming at me. Like, it's very, you know, it's, I don't know. It's goofy.
No, totally. But Indy manages to knock out the wall, right? And obviously we get the famous theme. Dun, 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 dun. You know the theme, right? I'm not going to fucking sing it to you. Fuck off. But yeah, like they managed to find their way out, but like not before, dude. We get some kind of like pretty wild imagery with these corpses, dude. The snake coming out of that corpse's mouth that's always haunted me, dude. That big motherfucker.
Yeah. That was rough. As a 31-year-old man, I was like, oh God, that's fucking, that's, oof. Well, it's all the different, it's all the different bodies where I'm like, I'm sorry, what room is this? It's like, why are all these still here? Like, I don't know. It just made me laugh that it was like,
they don't stick around to answer that. They haven't fucking run.
They're like, oh, I'm sorry. This was the last rave that happened. My bad. We shut the door and everybody was like,
that's capitalized. The last rave.
Yeah, the last rave.
Dude, I don't know why. I just last night as I'm watching this sequence just reminded me of Dwight from The Office, and I know because I'm hosting this episode of the podcast, there needs to be an Office reference. So here we go. There's an episode where Pam is putting together the new printer, but the instructions are in German. And Dwight's like, yeah, I know German. And he walks up and reads it, and he's like, this seems like instructions for a sacrificial sarcophagus. And then it cuts to him. It cuts to him in the like talking head, and he's like, my German is mostly pre-industrial and mostly religious. Oh, dude, I don't know why. It just like my mind just automatically cuts back to The Office whenever things like that happen. It's crazy. But no worries, because right behind the fucking temple is an airport. Apparently,
That's a badass airplane. I love that plane.
There's something I can never really get around that they don't ever like talk about. Right under where they push that block out, looks like there's a dude taking a nap right there, and they just hop right the fuck over him and run off. Is that just like a pile of like washcloths or something? I've never figured that out.
I'm rewinding. Hold on, I'm going 10 seconds back.
But by the way, it's funny that the fucking back of the temple, like of that held that they've been trying to find this whole time, was like, it looks like it was the tool shed for the Egyptians. Like,
oh, I see it, Danny. It looks like there's someone with a turban just like kind of like lying there,
as if they were knocked out from a stone, but they wouldn't have been knocked out from it and laying down in that same fashion. But like, they never talk about that. This building being like jettisoned out of the ground and them never probably trying to fucking dig through that. Like,
oh yeah, what's that? Well, we don't know what that's a part. The room of mystery.
Like somebody at some point pointed to it and was like, when are we going to go through there? And they're like, shut up. And they just kept talking about whatever they were talking about. Like, it's just funny that they push it out. Like,
So, Colin, you already mentioned it, man. This plane is fucking badass. Either they requisitioned this from a museum or they built it themselves. I don't know. It looks fucking sick.
Yeah, I wanted to know if this was a real plane or not, because I don't know shit about aviation or whatever. But the fucking weird Master Blaster Mad Max dude that runs up and starts fighting him. It's just like, so of course he has a blonde mustache. Of course his head is shaved. Like there's something so over the top. And just there's something that always cracks me up in these movies when you have this like knockdown fist fight, kind of moment. Like I get it. We've got to kind of have like
1930s.
Right. We've got to, I mean, fuck, it's the 80s. We got to have like a little bit of these like fighting kind of moments because our heroes have just kind of like technically taken one step backwards. So like, let's give them one step forward. Let's have her shoot a truck full of Nazis. Let's have him beat up, Mr. Nazi 101 or whatever. But there is something kind of so simple too about the fact that it's like, really, we've gone to like the first location, we went to the school and we've been here like the whole time. Mm-hmm. We've been here for a while, which is kind of interesting that and a lot of other movies, I feel like I would be bored by that. But the fact that this was, that it's such a big compound, it's such a big dig site as well, gives it a lot more room.
Visually, each issue feels different, right? Like, I mean, sure, we've been in this 50 square, meter radius for a while. Bigger than 50, but but visually each of these like locations we've been in here is different. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say I found some information about the plane. So Reynolds and production artist Ron Cobb created the BV-38 flying wing based on the Horton HO or Horton Ho 229, the Northrop N1M and Vought V173 constructed by the British engineering firm Vickers. It was dismantled and shipped to Tunisia. It was not designed to be flight-worthy, only to serve as a source of danger from its propellers. The plane was abandoned in Tunisia and slowly dismantled over the following decade by souvenir hunters before being demolished. The fight between Jones and the German underneath the plane was mainly improvised. Spielberg had to restrain himself from making it too long as each new idea led to another. During the fight, the moving vehicle rolled over Ford's foot because, of course, he got injured, and towards his knee before it was stopped. It took 40 crew members to move it off him. He avoided injury through a combination of the extreme Tunisian heat, making the tire soft, and the ground being covered in sand. Dysentery had left the production with the lack of stuntman, and Spielberg had Frank Marshall, stand in as the flying wing pilot. 3-day shoot was one of Spielberg's more difficult scenes to film, and he was reported saying he wanted to go home.
Well, you think after Lucas did A New Hope, that he'd be like, Spielberg would be like, hey, I think we're going to Tunisia. Oh, I wouldn't go to Tunisia if I were. It's like, dude, give somebody a fucking heads up, dude. Like he hated, hated Tunisia.
Well, I mean, by the by Revenge, by Return of the Jedi, like fucking Lucas is filming in his backyard in the
Right.
Californian redwoods, right?
I film wherever I want to. We filmed one time.
I'm pretty lazy right now.
We filmed in underwater area 51 one time, and there's something I'm just kind of lazy about the way he talks. I really love him. He just kind of bobs his head a little bit.
Someone get Natalie Portman some Evian water with some fucking sleeping pills, please.
Oh man.
But no, dude, I love this scene. Like this action scene might be one of my favorites. I just love the way it's shot. Visually, it looks gorgeous. The propellers. I mean, the sound design. Matt, Danny, as you said. Fuck, sorry, I was about to say Matt. Danny, as you said, Industrial Light and Magic. The way they will play with sound. Skywalker Sound, I think, is the company's name. But like, yeah, like it's amazing. And even, dude, we didn't even talk about the violence in this movie. Pretty violent for a PG rated film. And very famously, the PG-13 rating didn't come in until Temple of Doom, right, from the heart ripping scene.
Right.
And I think there was another movie that influenced that as well. But to have this movie be a PG rated film, there's a lot of violence in this movie, and there's a lot that's shown in this movie. Like,
yeah,
dude,
it's a
don't
headshot.
forget, Indy shoots someone in the head in Marion's bar.
Yeah.
With blood.
Like when the truck is pulling off, he just straight like murks the dude hanging off the driver's side, and you can see the back of the guy's head kind of poof, like when he shoots him in the cab.
Right.
It's like, fuck, man. It's not like RoboCop, but still, PG's. Well,
Right.
It's like Land Before Time or Beetlejuice or something,
Right. No one gets shot in the dick through a woman's dress, right?
Right, yeah.
None of that. But,
No one gets like jugular fucked with a knife, Call it the jug fuck.
no one gets mutinized, right?
Yeah,
before they
yeah.
get run over.
Right. No one gets turned into the Toxic Avenger.
Right,
But yeah,
totally.
I can see why they're PG and R. It's like, yeah, that's like when you're missing a couple of steps and you've got to like I could see, yeah, maybe something in between those two.
Can we talk about how Marion just straight up murders a garrison of soldiers right here?
Oh yeah.
Dude, what the fuck?
She's just bored and gets into the gunner's seat. I forget about that part of the movie every time that we watch this. Never fails.
Right.
When she gets back in there, I'm like, oh shit.
No, totally. But like from this moment on, with the aircraft, as soon as they make it out of the Well of Souls, from here to like this whole 40-minute stretch in the last act of the movie, sorry, this is kind of nonstop. The only time that it actually really slows down was when they're in the submarine. But other than that, dude, this leads into Indy taking the horse and confronting the caravan, and then like him like commandeering the truck. This is a giant long action sequence, and I fucking enjoy this, man. I always forget this part's in the movie. Well, I mean, like that this isn't broken up by another scene, actually.
Yeah, so many shots of like him leaving the camp on the horse, and the entire like crowd standing up, and the score building up as well as he's leaving, just like gets you so invigorated. And you're right, the last act of this movie, 40 minutes or so, is such a tug of war between the two of them, where they are constantly juggling the arc between each other back and forth. He's, he has the arc in his possession, and then he looks up and Belloc is at the top of the hole, and then it's in his possession. And then he stops the plane from moving, but then they put it onto a truck, and then he steals the truck, but then he gets it onto a boat, but then they come after him on the boat with the sub. I mean, it's like they are one-upping each other so fast constantly the last part of this movie. It's like, I can't really think of a lot of movies where they do it this well, constantly keeping up a good tug of war that is believable between the two of them.
Right. No, this is this reminds me a lot of Fury Road. Actually, this moment here,
right?
When like Indy's being tossed out, and like he's having to kind of like hold onto the grill, like literally his cock is about to be grinded by the fucking tires, dude. It's awesome. It's awesome as he goes under. I love it.
Yep.
I can't describe to you how much. Like, I mean, I've seen action movies of the 2010s, of the 2000s, whatever. We've perfected technology to the point of like, how much further can we go? But like, this still thrills me. Like, you know, and I think it's because of John Williams' score. I think it's because of the way it's shot. It's actually really riveting. You know, this feels like a lot of George Miller, like what George Miller does in the Mad Max movies.
Right. Well, also seeing like a stunt like that, it just seeing it tangible, knowing that they didn't have just a bunch of green screens behind them and shit, it makes you appreciate it more too.
No, absolutely, dude. So look, they get out of that and they have the arc, right? So Salah, Indy, and Marion say goodbye to each other. I love the way Salah reacts to Ravenwood kissing him.
Hey, before we get to that, and I love the captain in this, by the way, of that ship. He's a cool, real quick character. But earlier we were talking about editing. There is an editing thing in this that cracks me up that I just had never been able to get around very well. They ram off one of the Jeeps in that pursuit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And they go from, like, the Amazon to a very wide open desert to a cliff edge that has, like, an endless drop to it. Yeah, and then, like, the next scene, they're, like, running over Dora the Explorer and that monkey.
Right,
like, in the jungle. It's, like, such a jarring transition of those things that it cracks me up every time I see this. I cannot not see that.
Always love the shot of the Jeep going overboard, dude. Right. I don't know why. Like, it's like a miniature.
They filmed this in Jumanji. Like, that's what it feels like. This is fucking Jumanji, because it goes from like Tarzan to like Mad Max to like some South American Death Valley road, you know, like those really tight roads on a mountainside. It's like, where the fuck are we even, dude? Are we like time hopping here?
Onto the ship. Well, I mean, they fuck, right? I mean, like, this still hurts. That still hurts. This isn't too bad.
Do they fuck? I thought he just passed out on her.
He does, but then he wakes up. They wake up and she's naked, and then like a few movies later, he's like, "Shia LaBeouf's my son,"
and his name is Mutt. Jesus Christ!
He deserves it.
But no, look. I mean, Harrison Ford, circa 1981. Hey,
right.
I'm feeling something in my nethers. Feeling something in my nethers, man.
Right. I have very rarely met a person of that is interested in. Yeah, I've very rarely heard any type of person that would ever like that is interested in men not find Harrison Ford attractive. It's like, come on, man, that's like a prerequisite, you know. Like, are you straight? Are you straight? Huh? No, I'm just kidding. Like,
I mean, the guy was a carpenter, so you know he's good with his hands. Right?
Yeah, there you go. And he just, you know, I don't know. There's some Harrison Ford that's real hippie-ish. It's like, you know, that guy's got no qualms about body hair, body odor. He just fucking got in there and just did what he needed to do. That's what Harrison Ford feels like, you know? Like, there's like pictures of him like surfing and shit when he in the 60s. And it's like, oh, you know, that guy got tough. Fucking in the 60s, like they're just so 100%. Dude, Jesus Christ,
just kind of swath of that shit, dude.
Right.
But imagine waking up on the ship that you're on, and then you look to your left, and there's a German U-boat.
Yep.
Cool. Great. Thank you.
I love the story that the captain tries to make up. He's like, go and hide in here. There's a hiding place that we have for you. And then, like, as they come on board, he's like, we killed him because he was no longer used to us. But, you know, we kept her because his plan is that maybe they would leave her and walk away, and at least Indy and her would be alive. So I always loved how cool he played that off. Like, right. We're pirates. Like, fuck you guys, Nazis. Like, I love how they just kind of play that up. But in the very end, he was like, is he okay? And they're all cheering whenever they notice that he makes it over to the fucking U-boat, because who else is going to have propeller feet like Indiana Jones, apparently.
Go get your propeller feet.
Yeah, like they drop him in the water and he's like...
Have you seen the beautiful turtleneck that the captain's wearing? I mean...
Oh, man.
Come on.
This guy's like a Bond villain. Beautiful. Come on.
Yeah, it's Steve Jobs on the fucking
What's
boat.
The character's name? Tananga? Because that's even a Bond villain's name in an era.
Is it
a
really?
Roger Moore era. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, Danny, Indy makes it across, and apparently holds his breath the entire time as they go.
Or do they just not
Or
submerge?
they never submerge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This is a big, well, not a big thing, but like you'll find this on the internet, people like pointing out plot holes and stuff, because that's all people can do. But like, yeah, I agree. This time around, I was definitely watching around for it. You never see the U-boat submerge, right? I mean, and even when it rocks up to the island, it's still above the surface.
Yeah, and I guess there is risk to submerging, and if you didn't need to, then
Right. Can you imagine, dude? The pirates are just like celebrating. Like him getting across, and then it submerges.
It just starts
and,
going
and he
down.
just has to let go, so he's just floating there. He's just like treading water. But then we meet. Let's talk about the scene with the RPG, right? The standoff in the canyon. Apparently, this was Lucas's suggestion. This canyon, because it was used in A New Hope. Apparently,
Oh, nice.
which I think I can see R2 just like rolling down before he gets hit by the Jawas from memory, maybe.
That's
But-
what this feels
yeah.
like right here for sure.
even the
Yeah.
shading, like even like the clouds and stuff, like the
Right.
everything about that setting. You're right.
Harrison Ford just holds his rocket launcher above his head like, and just starts like shooting it at him.
Yeah. But I really dig this because Indy is 100% willing to blow this thing away. Right? Do you reckon he does it? I think he does it.
I don't
Well,
know.
if he
If he goes
doesn't.
away.
No.
No, I mean, like, I don't know. In a different world, I can see, like maybe an older Indy. I think I can see him blowing this away because he doesn't give a fuck.
If he didn't give a fuck about Marion, then yeah, maybe then.
Yeah. Yeah, this is interesting though, because I really like Belloc's delivery of Jones. Like, you know, when he realizes like that the danger the Ark is under. Like, I really dig that.
I'm just amazed nobody shoots him in the fucking head. There's like 9 guys with rifles. Someone's not just like, if he doesn't, it just blows his fucking brains out. Like, come on, dude.
Well, Indy surrenders, and I guess we can talk about the island scene, right? Like the final moment.
Wow, we got here quick. It feels
Yeah.
it feels fast, but I guess a lot of that's action.
Well, the last 40 minutes is a lot. Sorry, like 30 minutes is a lot of it is action. A lot of it is physical activity, you know, like jumping from truck to truck or
Yeah.
things like that. And like, you know, I mean, how much can you really cover all of that in a podcast, right? I mean, like, I think that right hook was great. Awesome.
Right.
It was hit with a lot of impact.
The part I do like is the box like activating, and then all the anything that's not natural is like like it blows up the guns, it blows like anything that's not a naturally made thing is like destroyed. Like the camera, the
But not only
lights,
that,
like,
the rumbling sound that it
Right.
makes, dude. Oh, terrifying.
it also feels very like Ghostbusters to me. Just something about those steps coming up and then like the fog descending down. It feels like them going up the steps to fight Zool in Ghostbusters 1. Like there's something about that feels very like Ghostbusters to me. But that is an awesome shot of like the I guess I don't know if they're whatever they are, ghost spirits, whatever. Like just the normal face, and then as it gets closer, it just swaps to a skull. I was like, oh shit,
Yes.
that's
and as soon
kinda
as
cool.
that happens, Williams's score changes into something a little more sinister.
Yeah,
right? I love it.
dreadful. Like a dreadful sense of awe and awe comes over it.
So the Nazis get fucked. Absolutely fucked.
Part of me is asking what kills these people, because it's like, is it just because they're non-believers? Like, you know, I thought whoever had the Ark was like, nobody ever said, hey, if you get the Ark, but you're a fucking Nazi, that the thing's gonna kill you. Like, I just thought, does it just kill them because they're bad guys? Like,
I mean, he performed the ritual and got burned. So what does that mean?
I don't
That's what
know
I'm
if
saying.
it's I don't know if it's non-believers. I think it's just this is one of those things that cannot be disturbed. You know, I think it's just like this is too much power for human eyes to actually take in. To you know, like to actually take in. So by closing your eyes, you're shielding yourself from it, and you know you're wanting power. It's all about hubris, right? Like it's all about German hubris. You're wanting to besiege, like take all the power into your hands as much as you can, and it's very similar to. Do you remember 2004 Ang Lee's Hulk? You remember that movie?
Yeah. Mhm.
With Eric Bana?
Mhm.
Remember the end when he's struggling with his father, and the father is like, I want your power, I want it all. And then at the end, the Hulk says, take it, you want my power, take it all. And that ends up destroying him.
Mhm.
I think it's just too much for them to handle. And it's just, it's one of those things that's just mystically just way too much. I don't know. I'm too drunk to explain this.
That's really my only kind of qualm is like, I would love to see if it were like, the box knows that you hate fucking Jews. What are you doing with the box of those people? Like, you're the last motherfucker that should be activating this thing. Like, I don't know. There's something about that struck me as odd, that the box isn't like, oh, so that's what you guys are about? It's like, it just starts like killing people. Like, oh, okay. Like, because I've heard there's some, I can't remember where I read this. It's the Ark of the Covenant that you had to be like a prophet of Aaron or something like that to activate it. So there's like certain like rules and stuff like that, I guess. But ultimately, I wouldn't mind like a little bit more like explanation as to like, why did this thing just like wipe them out? It just seems like it wipes them out because movie, but in a 2-hour movie, I'd like, maybe some kind of even minimal explanation of it.
You saying that makes me want them to have like zoomed in on some of the writing and been like, what the fuck? Up, down, left, right.
Yeah.
A, B. Like, they just start doing a cheat code, entering it in. It starts unlocking like infinite ammo, starts spitting out of the side of it.
Interesting. Because, Colin, so you don't buy the whole, it's too much for them. It's too much mystical power for human eyes.
I don't know, because why the fuck did you make the goddamn box in the first place? Somebody had to use it. Somebody did use it. So, like, how the hell did that work?
Maybe Jesus used it, for fuck's sake, Colin. Fuck.
Oh,
maybe
God.
there was power that was inside it that at some point they eventually had to create a like crate like that golden sarcophagus for and entomb it in there without looking at it. You know what I mean? Like, they put blindfolds on and they're like fumbling around in this room being like, it killed everybody in here. We got to find a fucking box for this thing, whatever it is. And then every time somebody opens up that box, this is what happens.
Face melt. Can we talk about the face melt? Because
That's great.
It sounds like you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I do, man, because it will forever be one of the best practical effects I've ever seen in my life. Like, there are movies. I mean, like, we can talk about American Werewolf in London. Like, we can talk about all of the most practical effects ever. This, to me, is way up there. Like, I have never seen something so horrific in my life as a child, dude. I was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that in movies.
I think this is a good point of why practical effects are better than CGI or any kind of digital.
Yeah.
Because the amount of detail that you pick up in that, it's like wax melting is just so intense and vivid on like the way it comes across on screen. How would anybody ever make that look believable with CGI, right?
Totally. And even the sound design, if you listen very closely, it sounds like someone's pouring cold water into a hot pot. Like, it's like that's like sound. Oh, it's brilliant, dude. Like, the sound design is absolutely amazing. But yeah, look, I really need to talk about that stop motion fucking melting scene because I was going to explode like that guy's head did. So there you go. But there are two moments in this franchise that, in terms of practical effects will always stick with me. It's this moment, and then it's also the moment in The Last Crusade when Donovan is aging really, really quickly.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Face just
That's
starts
hardcore.
For the longest time, you know how we were talking about Mandela effect in the beginning of this? I always get the melting and the ageifying thing mixed together when I was younger, even though the plots of the movies easily identify which one of those it belongs to. Those practical effects, you're right, stick out so vividly to me that I almost always get them confused in which movie they pop up in. I'm like, is that the one where he melts or ages? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But then they somehow get found on this island and end up in America.
Living in America. Yeah, how do you, because it's, is there like an Easter egg to this in Kingdom of Crystal Skull, or how do you know this is Area 51?
Yes.
I can't remember. There's something there.
No, there is absolutely a moment in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So Crystal Skull starts off with the Russians rolling up to Area 51 with Indiana Jones. And there's this big action sequence, and they kind of like knock over all these crates. And in one of the crates, you see like the edge of like the Ark of the Covenant, and it even plays the music too, like the like music, like So this is absolutely 100% Area 51. But like even back then in 1981, before you had Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you could probably assume that this was Area 51 or something like that to that effect. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, top men. I love the way this ends, actually. I really, really love this ending. Not because it's been spoofed in like Family Guy and shit. Like, I like the I like the tease that the American government has everything now. Even mystical religious artifacts that they're just kind of like filed away.
Good
like
point.
Nothing.
It doesn't feel like it's the end of the movie when the end of the movie almost creates such a big conversation afterwards. It almost feels like when you're seeing the credits go by, it's almost giving you permission to be like, all right, well, I can stop paying attention to that part of it, but holy shit, like what is in all those crates if the Ark is in one of them?
Right. And that's Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, baby.
Mm-hmm. Raiders of the Temple of the Last Crusade of Crystal. Number 5.
I had a lot of fun with that. Look, let's roll right into listener comments before we get the fuck out of here. What do you guys reckon?
Let's jump in. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, so look, there were a bunch of comments because I asked a pretty leading question. Like as I do, because I kind of wanted to prompt some conversation, and I'm so glad everyone kind of jumped in. But my question was, like I said at the start of the episode, my question was, is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark the greatest written adventure film of all time? And that was a poll in the form of a poll. And I want to say, hold on, fuck, I'm trying to find the poll. Sorry, have you noticed I've been stalling?
No, you're good. I got it pulled up right here. If you want me to start reading off some of them.
Well, give us the before you do, give us the results of the poll.
It was a yes or no, and no had 15 votes, and yes had 6.
You know what? As it goes, 6 out of 21 people think it's the greatest written adventure film of all time. That's a high bar to clear.
That's great. However, I might think that, and I don't know about those 6 people, but it's sometimes I forget about some of the other ones, and I'm like, that's technically adventure. Like later in the comments, Danielle Cutter pointed out Lord of the Rings, and I was like, son of a bitch. Because that is in such a tier of its own to me that I almost don't even consider it as part of this. It's like fantasy to me.
Right.
Well, you're gonna have to quantify what is adventure, right? I mean, like adventure is. I think Lord of the Rings absolutely meets the definition of adventure. I think it's literally going from point A to Z with B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, whatever in the middle.
Whatever that alphabet is.
Yeah, whatever the alphabet is in the middle. But like, like that absolutely happens in Lord of the Rings. Like, I absolutely do think it is an action adventure. Do you disagree, Danny?
No, I agree. It's just, I think I said earlier, like fantasy is almost the main genre to me. I feel like that sticks out to more than almost adventure, even though that is such an adventure-esque movie and story, Yeah. There's a lot that everybody brought up in the comments that I'm glad that everybody, thank you for commenting on these.
Yeah,
brought up. A lot of participation.
Let's go ahead and read some.
Yeah.
You were going to read Patrick's.
Sure, yeah. Patrick started out with something that I know we've already brought up multiple times, and he said I'd pick The Last Crusade as the best. Lots of swashes, lots of buckles. The father and son dynamic, Sean Connery gold. I've said it earlier in this. Last Crusade for me is my favorite out of all these.
Definitely my favorite as well. I'm going to move on to James Mitchell. He says The Mummy is actually a much better adventure movie in my opinion, and separating Indy into 2 characters works wonders. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, separating Indy into Evie and Brendan Fraser's character, that's not a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. Good thing to point out, James.
But also James also says, though, 0 Nazi face punches is a real miss.
Yeah.
Daniel kind of says, one of the greatest, absolutely. But when I think about this and then I think about, say, Mad Max or Lord of the Rings, suddenly there's a few other contenders out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then James also says, oh, Lord of the Rings is one I had not considered. Jose Rivera says, that's a tough one. I love Raiders, but I also love Last Crusade. How does one pick one over the other? Talk about Sophie's Choice. Aaron White, film critic, over at Feeling Film Podcast, says, it's among my favorite subgenre of story whether film or video game or TV, and what is the, quote, best is always going to be subjective, but I think it's pretty undeniably the most influential. And I think that really, really hits the nail on the head, because this is, you got to remember, this is the, I don't want to say first because it also was based on things, but when this came out, there were copycats upon copycats upon copycats. So, Romancing the Stone, right? I mean, with fucking Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas is a big one. And then you also have games like Pitfall. Pitfall is also, tangentially influenced off Indiana Jones.
Lara Croft.
So, yeah, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, absolutely. Uncharted, right? I mean, it's all of those things. Carlos says, I love Raiders, but I'd watch Pirates of the Caribbean over it almost every time. And I think, Danny, you and I were pretty much simpatico on this, because when he says Pirates of the Caribbean, he means Curse of the Black Pearl.
Oh, of course.
And Curse of the Black Pearl was my favorite movie growing up. Like just bottom line,
Wow.
growing up until The Dark Knight.
Wow.
Until The Dark Knight.
When you turned
that is-
6. No.
Yeah. Fuck you. But some other people chimed in with the original Mummy. And dude, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and drop a bomb here and say Steph doesn't like Indiana Jones, Terminator 2, or Jurassic Park at all.
Ooh,
And that started the whole thing. So, yeah. We're going to get divorced.
not even married yet. I like how Nathan brought up, are you kidding? Fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, and miracles. He leaves a good quote from
Princess Bride.
Bride, yes. So earlier in this, you guys were trying to like kind of quantify or nail down the magic, and I wanted to use the Princess Bride as like, this has a Princess Bride-esque feel to it sometimes.
Yeah, totally. Rick Gentuza says, in my opinion, I think Pirates of the Caribbean and the Mummy are movies that are more rewatchable than Raiders. Now, rewatchable is a different category, I think. If you're talking about best and rewatchable or favorite, then I think it's two different things. Because, like, look, I think Schindler's List is one of the greatest movies of all time, but I'm not going to go ahead and rewatch it, right? Like, it is what it is.
Watch it once a week. What are you talking about?
It's the Mel Gibson in you.
Yeah. No, there's something
it's-
about that where, no, go ahead, Danny.
It's something about watching rewatching a face melt over and over again versus watching, the fight between Captain Sparrow and what now, Jack Sparrow? Be me two mortals locked in an epic
Barbossa.
battle until Judgment Day, until trumpets sound, or you could surrender. Like that has almost such a more different rewatchability than watching like 1,000 people get like pierced by the force of God. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I could get that. I get that.
Totally. Gaon Nogra. Gaon I went to high school with, so thanks so much for chiming in, Gaon. He says, it's been said a few times, and I have to say that the Mummy series, especially 1 and 2, I remember watching them over and over as a kid, chucking the VHS into the car thingo that rewinds the VHS was the highlight of my school days. So I think there's definitely a lot of love out there for the Mummy, the 1999 film,
Dude,
which is which is really kind of like heartwarming to hear, but also at the same time, like 7 or 8 people have heard our coverage of the Mummy on the bonus episode. So can you guys hurry up and fucking sign up, please?
Yeah. Because that was me. I was 9, 10 when that movie came out. That was my Indiana Jones. So like I've seen all of the Mummy trilogy, watched the Scorpion King. Like I watched those because that was my demographic. That was my age when those were coming out. I didn't really watch these until I was kind of like grown up and stuff. But the Mummy is like, I don't know, man. I mean, as far as like a film, like there's some really brilliant moments that like I know it sounds like sacrilege to say like the Mummy against like Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's like a high schooler beating up a kindergarten kid. It would almost feel like, because the Mummy can be kind of goofy, but like this can be kind of goofy at the same time. Yeah, which I absolutely have done. Grab them by their ankles, slam them into brick walls. But the thing about it is that there are elements of the Mummy, because it is a adventure horror, where this is not a horror thing. The Mummy has death and the afterlife, and it has a whole paranormal realm that gives it like this other texture to it that I prefer, because that's what I grew up with. So that's the stuff that I love. Religious artifacts and Nazis and stuff, yeah, that's cool, but for me, I wanted just stuff with a little bit more teeth and a little bit more darkness. So I think that's why I like those more as a kid. But I can see why because those kind of are the more recent, in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, you got the Mummy, and then when does Curse of Black Pearl come out? 05, 06, 07?
Yeah.
05. 03. 03. Yeah.
03?
Whoa.
Damn.
Yeah, 03.
Man, because the whole pirate genre thing just died. There was like some Gina Davis movie, and it would just kind of killed the whole pirate thing. And then all of a sudden they came back with Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's like, God, it's so hard to fuck with those movies, though. The first couple are so damn good. I like it, World's End. I fucking love it. The two ships locked together in the whirlpool.
Dude.
Awesome.
The first three, especially, dude. I love it. Like, I want there to be less government shit in the third one, but it's still good. I mean, The Curse of Black Pearl is 03. This is all from memory, by the way. Dead Man's Chest is 06, and then At World's End is 07, and then after that, I don't give a shit anymore. So.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. The last one that they did, the most recent one, was actually much more entertaining than I was going to think that it was. I'll be totally honest.
Dead Men Tell No Tales?
Yeah, I think Javier Bardem might have been in that one.
Yes, I did watch that one.
I was pleasantly surprised, actually. I was like, okay, I'm glad that I at least saw this. Man, there is such a great nostalgia about that third one, about them flipping the ship over. There was something that I never really felt the first time. And then the first time I really saw that was like in a theater experience. And then my parents, we rewatched it like crazy because my mom was in love with those movies. We rewatched those a lot, and they had like a great setup in there. Watching them flip that ship over really never registered with me until recently when we went back and like rewatched all of them in a row. And yeah, man, I always thought that was a trippy ass scene. I'm glad that everybody that had commented brought up Mummy, but especially Pirates as well. We have one more from Sharni, if that's okay. I'm going to bring up real quick.
Yeah,
she said, Sharni Allen said, speaking of Harrison Ford, I'd say Star Wars, A New Hope might be the greatest adventure story. How did we not even fucking bring that up?
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Is it sci-fi-y? To me, I think it almost, just because I have a weird way of categorizing this stuff, it's almost like in its own league of movies. Like, it's just so universal to me. Like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, it's just like the movie, I don't know.
Is it an adventure though? Because like I'm trying to, like, for me an adventure is the protagonist is in search of something and they go from point A to B or whatever. But Luke doesn't really know what he's in search of. And even like by the time we get to the trench run, what's he like? Why is he doing this? What's he looking for? Other
What's
than
your goal?
Do you know what I mean?
I think that it kind of just starts in like a big fish in a small pond, and then once you kill the aunt and uncle, it's like, well, now you're emotionally invested, and you've got to go. There's nowhere else for you. I think if you take Star Wars and you put it in fucking Millennium Falcon's a pirate ship, Luke's a cabin boy. That's definitely a fucking adventure movie. That so is. But I mean, you can saying that about a lot of shit though. Road movie, Dumb and Dumber's an adventure movie, Midnight Special's an adventure. Just because you go from A to B, I think there's got to be a little bit more than that. I think you've got to have big bombastic kind of battles.
I think you need purpose as well.
you need transport battles. And that's where like Mad
Right.
Max, Waterworld, like all these movies that have giant moving vehicular pieces are what kind of make it feel like an adventure thing. You know, like with this one, you've got this aerial stuff, you've got tanks, you've got stuff like that. Lord of the Rings, you have, you know, boats and pirate ships. Star Wars, you have Star Destroyers and stuff like that.
Well,
So I think
you
that
explain it
need-
that way. Sorry, but you explain it that way, and Star Wars is pretty diverse, right? They're on different planets, different environments, different types of
Yeah.
ships, like small ships, big ships, escape pods.
Did we only just find out that Star Wars is diverse? Did we only just find that out? Look, so before we run this thing out, look, there were 2 posts about this, and I'm not going to go ahead and read everyone's comments, but I thank you everyone for chiming in. There is 2 more that I'm going to read, so thank you so much for these guys for commenting. Jose says, funny thing, out of the trilogy, I saw this one last, and then he says Temple of Doom was my first, followed by Last Crusade. That being said, I love this movie. As a fan of pulp adventure stories, Raiders is a perfect movie for both genres. When I think of Harrison Ford, I don't think of Han Solo, I think of Indiana Jones. I love the line, I'm making this up as I go. It shows Indiana can adapt to any situation. It might not always go well, but it makes him more interesting. And come on, who doesn't love Marion? Of all the female leads, she was the best because she could hold her own. That's true. It's true. I agree with that. And then Jose
Well
also
put.
says, also, can we talk about the concept art for this film? They got comic legend Jim Steranko to do some stunning painted artwork to help sell the movie. I got to meet Steranko at a convention a few years ago, and he was selling prints of these. I had to get one. He was nice enough to sign one for me. I got a frame for it, and now it hangs above my computer for those times when I'm writing and need some inspiration. You can go ahead and check out Jose's Instagram post because that artwork is badass.
It's
man.
Yeah, it does.
incredible. Yeah, go check that out on the after party on Facebook.
Totally. The other persons that I really wanted to mention is Danielle Cutter. She says, "True story. I saw Temple of Doom before I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm feeling a little bit of a theme here, and I'm only slightly ashamed to admit I like Temple better." And then she put in brackets, "I was young and stupid. Don't blame me." Eventually, I came to my senses probably around the 4th or 5th time I rewatched it, and now I can't imagine my cinematic life without it. The music, the set pieces, the clothes (brackets). I wanted all of Marion's outfits. The scenes where he shoots that guy. It's all larger than life, and it's a true adventure ride from start to finish. There's a reason this and the other indie films endure. I think people, myself included, love coming back to familiar storytelling, and Raiders is pitch perfect storytelling. Really looking forward to this one, guys. I really appreciate that, Danny. That is amazing. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. And I think that's what she really said. Really kind of like sticks with me. Is that it's larger than life. Like, this is escapist filmmaking, right? That's what Spielberg does best. This is a director, in my opinion, like, this is going to be a strong statement, and I don't love hyperbole like some other people do. I think Steven Spielberg is the greatest director of all time. I love Nolan. Everyone knows I love Nolan. I love his movies. I love his intellectual properties and stuff. But no one can make the string of movies that Steven Spielberg has in his career. No one can make Jaws, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, E.T., Saving Private Ryan in one career. No one can do that. Like, it's just
The guy's a shark. He just eats movies, And
Literally.
Hook. Like, fuck, dude.
Literally.
I mean, there's so mumuch shit.
absolutely.
Yeah, he just eats that shit. Yeah, it's very, like, you can skip stones, but that guy skips stones for a living. It's a very rarely does he have one that's like a slip,
Dude, he's forgotten more about movies than the second best director out there, like, would ever learn in their own career. It's
Right.
kind of crazy.
Mhm.
But look, I absolutely love this movie. I love this franchise. This is a movie that I come back to pretty often. It's a good time. It's fun, It's not meant to be intellectually challenging, but even still, it's not stupid, right? We already talked about its comparisons to, probably today's more contemporary stuff. But I think it's incredibly fun. I think Harrison Ford turns in a great, fun performance, and visually, it's absolutely gorgeous to look at. So yeah, this is a like I said, a top tier movie for me. Danny, why don't you close us off with your thoughts, and then Colin?
Going back and thinking about, there's just so many other things that are stick out to me with this movie, and it just goes to show how packed it is with quality. That even us sitting here talking about it for this long, it's just like we still can't cover every aspect of it. There's aspects of it that I think about a lot. Like you were talking about how, they shot some of the scenes where they did no talking, or there was less talking than you'd think, because they showed what was going on just by like shadows and panning the camera correctly. Like when the truck is catching on fire in the airport and the camera catches the entire exchange of Marion on the plane, eyeing that it's about to happen. Indiana Jones on top of it, trying to shoot it open so that he can get her off of it and they can run out of there. I mean, like, you see a lot of that happen, but most of it is almost like wordless, other than them maybe kind of like freaking out. And God, like, just how many other details could you just dive into with this? I think that's why it's so easy and fun to come back to and rewatch constantly. Is, there's things that pointing out to it, like the snake's not moving. Zohab, I've watched this so many times. I've never even really noticed the snake's not moving in that scene, because I'm just usually locked into the point of view of it being so far away from Indiana Jones when he's sitting there talking to Belloc or whatever. Just so much of that is there's still so much to absorb with it. And I think that's kind of why it contends, and I could see why maybe 6 out of 21 people in a vote could make this as their top one easily. There are a lot of contenders, but this just set up such a great string of unique movies that made, like Jose pointed out, I think, that just like he's making it up as he goes, and it's like something that is more relatable. He's not always successful at what he does, and he's much more kind of relatable as your protagonist in that sense, and just so unique for somebody to really pull that off, and who else better to do that than Harrison?
Hell yeah. Like I don't love this movie. I don't hate it either. It's fun. It's definitely something that I think everybody should watch at least once. If you can't really say that you would, I don't think you can really sit there and say that you enjoy movies and you're a cinephile and not have seen, I mean, just such a large franchise. And the thing is, this was also a send up to the stuff that like Lucas and Spielberg were watching when they were kids, and stuff that like my dad would have been watching when he was a kid. And and this is the kind of stuff that he liked, was not these like complicated anti-heroes, but was just the strong, silent, handsome guy who kissed women and punched men, and guys wanted to be him and women wanted to fuck him. And it was such a simple, he's like a caricature. He's not even really like a character. He's almost like a caricature. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because it's not that they were aiming for this like really complicated world and really complicated character, and they had to settle short on what they wanted, just a very 2D punch 'em up fun adventure movie, and that's what they got. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think this is my definition of a good like popcorn movie. You don't really need to really pay attention to the plot. It's not like Inception. It's not like Usual Suspects. It's not this like really mind blowing kind of thing. You punch some guys, you save the girl, you go home. It's fun. What are you gonna do? It's ultimately, it's not my favorite type of movie in the world, but not every movie needs to be fucking Prisoners. Not every movie needs to be Donnie Darko and have these like super heady kind of themes to them and have a lot of meat on the bone. Sometimes you just want to kick your feet up and watch some people get their teeth knocked out. And this is what's fun about those movies. So I enjoyed it. I mean, I probably won't own them, but maybe the last one, maybe Last Crusade, but that's just because that's like a personal favorite of mine.
I thought you were about to say Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh, Jesus. What? No.
What if he was like, I am so pumped for the 5th one?
That's how my brain works. Oh, the last one. The one with and it's not even Kingdom of Crystal Skull. It's the whatever the fucking one I was just talking about.
That's like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to you is like an expansion pack onto Crusade, like Last Crusade. Basically, you're like, the whole thing is Last Crusade. Basically,
yes, it's like when they redid GoldenEye for like new. I'm like, nah, there's just GoldenEye. For N64,
they remade it for like whatever PS3 or some shit.
Whatever the fuck. But yeah, those are my kind of final thoughts. I had fun with it though.
Yeah.
Awesome. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, an amazing movie. I had a great time covering this with you guys. Look, I'm gonna really wrap this up real quick because I really need to pee because I'm getting really drunk and I'm really drinking a lot. So, members, if you're sticking around, we're about to record Scary Movie 2.
Mhm.
At this point, it would already be out. So thank you so much for your patronage and for listening. And if you want to hear me get more drunk, that's the episode to do it.
Thank you, everybody, for commenting.
Yes, thank you so much for commenting, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. Check out the show notes for socials if you do want to follow us. If you do want to support us, head to patreon.com/midnightdogfeature. Guys, this has been a great time. It's been fun breaking into an iconic franchise and talking about an iconic character, an amazing director, and an amazing setting. So, guys, we will see you guys next time at Midnight Dog Feature. Thank you for listening.
Last Crusade is better. Bye!